Happy anniversary. Welcome back to Predator vs. Movies. We've been going on for 1
1 year! Oh my god!
That's crazy. We started this venture 1 year ago. We have not done anywhere close to 52 episodes. I think we're about maybe no, just
for something.
I think we're about 8 weeks behind 50
Okay.
52.
Wait, really?
We've taken quite
we have
a few
like
breaks.
40 episodes?
I think this will be our 44th.
Well, yeah,
That's crazy.
we had like the February hiatus, and then we
We missed
too.
last week or 2 weeks ago when this releases. Spoilers. But anyways, yeah. So 1 year ago we did Thor: Love and Thunder, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but I guess we should introduce ourselves for those newcomers if they're coming new to this anniversary episode. I am Alex.
I'm Peter.
I'm Aiden.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a podcast where we discuss and review the latest movie releases. As we always do, we are going to start off with a non-spoiler review before diving into a deep discussion of the film. Then we're going to ask the most important question: would this movie be better if the alien from Predator was in it? So, as I was saying previously, 1 year ago we did Thor: Love and Thunder. In honor of Thor: Love and Thunder and our pilot episode, we are going to be reviewing
that movie.
an enduring hatred of that movie. We're going to be reviewing the box office blockbuster bomb, The Flash, from this year, 2023. Very exciting. And we'll find out, there are some similarities with Thor: Love and Thunder. Aiden, would you like to tell us a little bit about this movie?
I can tell you a little bit about this movie. It was directed by Andy Muschietti of It and It Chapter 2 fame. The screenplay was by Christina Hodson, but the story was by John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein and Joby Harold. Those are the Freaks and Geeks guys, except for Joby Harold. It's starring Ezra Miller, Sasha Cali, Michael Shannon, Rob Livingston, Maribel Verdú, Kiersey Clemens, Angie sorry, I don't know that name. Michael Keaton and Henry Brom. It was released on June 12th, 2023, but June 16th in the United States. Runtime 144 minutes. The budget was 200 to 220 million, and it made $268.4 million.
Yikes. That's not
Very
great.
cool. Now this movie has been in development hell. I don't know all the information. I'm trying to look it up as I'm talking right now.
I can talk about it.
People
I know
famously
exactly what happened.
It's been going on for 10 years. It was announced that there would be a Flash movie before the Flash TV series started. And we did not get the Flash movie until the Flash TV series ended. I believe 8 seasons later. Very crazy stuff. Peter, what do you want to tell us about?
Well, basically,
Flash
like
now?
Warner Bros. Has been wanting to make a Flash movie for a very long time, but they either because they don't like the script or the director signed off. One way or another, people came in, people left, and the script got worked on by a lot of people, some famous people as well. I'm pretty sure Lord and Miller worked on a version of the script.
This is true.
And yeah, I guess now, with COVID and everything, sort of the production got shut down during COVID, probably most likely, and now it's finally released. I think we saw like the first look over 3 years ago now. I think in 2020, like it was during the first of the DC fandom type thing. When we got
I was
the first
hoping
look
for a
of the
little
movie.
more in-depth background, but just from like scanning, I've got some more stuff for us. So yes, it was originally going to be penned by Lord and Miller, but they got sidetracked by Solo, which they also did not end up writing.
No.
Rick Famuyiwa was going to helm The Flash for a bit. I believe, I'm just going to check if I have the right person in mind. Yeah, I think he did Mando. He did some Mando stuff, if I'm not mistaken. He also did Dope, the movie from 2015, which I think has Kiersey Clemens.
Yeah, it's
in it, who is
it's
in
Iris
this movie.
West. Yeah, it's
Very
Iris
funny.
West. Yeah.
So he was supposed to helm it at one point. This article that I'm looking at says throughout 2017, names ranging from Robert Zemeckis to Sam Raimi to Jordan Peele were brought up as people as Warner Brothers wanted to direct, so they were probably offered that. They weren't necessarily on it. In early 2018, John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein were hired. They recently did Dungeons and Dragons as well as Game Night, and yeah,
They also
and then
with some of the Spider-Man MCU Spider-Mans, I think.
interesting. I didn't know
They
that.
were writers. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. That's cool.
And they were
Ultimate.
Freaks and Geeks as kids.
Oh, cool. Oh no, I think I knew that. And
I
ultimately,
seen that 2 minutes ago.
yeah,
You don't listen to my movie info?
I'm hardly listening. I'm like focusing on several things at once. But ultimately, it landed on Andy Muschietti. Was that the best choice? We'll discuss it. But before we do, we play a game. It's called Predacritic. There's a website on the internet called Metacritic where critic scores of a movie are averaged out of 100. We are going to guess where The Flash ranks on that metric, on the Metacritic metric. And to decide who goes first, we have a wheel that I spin and that I'm not stalling to get ready because it's not prepared, and someone still needs to add their name, and my monitor isn't working, and I'm spinning the wheel now, and the wheel is spinning, and definitely was prepared. I'm not waiting for it to land. Oh no, it's really close. It's Aiden. Aiden is gonna guess. I was ready for this. Aiden is gonna guess
another
where the
week
Flash
of Aiden not playing the game. Hell yeah.
Can't believe it. Okay. Well, I think this is gonna be low. I think it's gonna be low. I think that I'm feeling like a 50s sort of range. Like that's just where I'm going off the dome. I think this movie's bad, but I rarely see Metacritic scores going like that low, like super super low. And like this movie feels like it was made by an AI, and I think because of that, there are elements of this that are competent. Like, like if an AI wrote a script, they would make a script that is generally functional, right? And so I think that there are functional parts of this movie. I'm actually just gonna go 53.
Sure. I think that gives a lot of credit to AI. I'm not sure that they would actually produce a functional script.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I
agree.
agree.
No, I think they would. I think they would. I don't think it would be good. I think it would be weird and hollow and empty. But I'm saying like, would this plot point occur at the right point, and would a plot develop that would generally work altogether? And I do think it's at that point.
I don't want to give.
No,
I don't want to give credit.
I actually,
to AI, so.
I disagree because AI does a lot of extrapolation. It's very much like basing off. Like what they're creating is very much based on existing stuff. So I doubt it will be coherent or like it will even make sense. But anyways.
Regardless, I have spun the wheel again. Peter, you are going next. Where do you think the Flash?
I'm gonna go with the classic. So I think last time when we played the game, we found there's like an offset between like 9% between Rotten Tomato and Metacritic. So
sure.
I think this is the 64 on Rotten Tomatoes. So I'm gonna go with the 55.
Okay.
Are you allowed to do research on this? Are you allowed to just like know the Rotten Tomatoes score and then?
Well, I know because I usually check before I watch a movie. So.
Okay. Well, this is tough. I
mean, you can play the game. You can play the game.
I can play the game. You've nicely given me a slot. You didn't have to do that. I might just do that. I see it quite truly landing in the 50s, but you know what? Sometimes life is more fun if you play Risk.
40s?
I will say, you said 55, Peter?
Yeah, Aiden said 53.
I'll say, I have to remember if people like this movie or not.
I think 52 is calling your name. 52 is calling your name, I think.
It's calling me by my name, actually.
Well, then Aiden gets to play the game, this motherfucker.
Yeah, no, that's what he wants. Well, the question is it higher or is it lower? I don't know. We're talking about critics. Let's get down to brass tacks. We're talking about critics. Critics don't like this. I'll go for 52. We'll just see what happens.
Let's go.
We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Life is more interesting. I don't like necessarily playing the game. So I also I am concerned that it could be higher than we expect. There's part of me that's like unsure.
Yeah, I
and we're
have that
finding
concern
out.
too.
And man, see, I should have gone with my gut because I would have guessed right. Peter does, in fact, win this one because it got a 56.
Okay.
Not
Dude, I
too
told
much
you
higher
the
than
offset,
but,
man. The offset, 9%, bro. I'm telling
but
you.
I'm gonna ban you from looking up Rotten Tomatoes score. That's not gonna be
I
allowed.
didn't look it up. I just know it.
Well, then don't know it. You're not allowed to know
Well,
it.
to
Oh
be
my
fair, if
god.
you just like search the movie on Google, you do see it. It is right there.
Well, I don't know what the Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie is.
Okay.
I think
That
saying that
doesn't.
like
That's not a counter argument to what I
no,
said.
but I'm saying that you can exist and not know what the Rotten Tomatoes score of a movie. You just have to try. You don't, like I feel like Peter's actively seeking it out. He said he looks it up before he watches a movie. So, anyways, as the winner of the game, Peter, you get to give your non-spoiler review of The Flash first. Peter, what did you think of this movie?
Okay, so I was originally somewhat excited to see this film.
So
I thought it was okay. And well, after watching it, I think it's not very good. I give. I'm just gonna go straight to the score. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I think my overall review is there are some very high highs and some extremely low lows, and everything you heard about the CGI is 100% factual. And the fact that a lot of the CGI stuff is very unnecessary, it's like the fact that they're there, it's like purely for cameo purposes. It's like it does not push the plot forward in any way at all, which is honestly a real shame. Like I think what Warner Bros were banking on was sort of to make this the Spider-Man Far From Home, but for Batman for Michael Keaton. But because Keaton's film never really connected with me in the way that maybe it did for like if it came out in your childhood, for example. So like that wasn't a huge thing for me, and I think if anything, like I guess my Batman would be Christian Bale, and like that Batman will probably connect with me more. But throughout the film, they're like the third act is genuinely I thought it was very good, to be honest. Of course we'll get into it when we talk about spoilers, but I think the movie doesn't really have an identity. That's my main problem with it. Like I think it has some very very good concepts it's trying to introduce. If you've seen the trailer, they're trying to pair up Batman with Barry to explore past traumas, which I thought is a brilliant duo. But they didn't use Batman in that sense at all. They used him more as fan service. Like 90% of Michael Keaton was just apparently repeating his old lines and also just like look cool as Batman, which is such a shame when there's so much can be done there. And what else would I say? Supergirl clears though. I really like Supergirl. I thought like she's very cool, very badass, and like just genuinely like short but sweet. Her appearance on screen, and overall, would I recommend people to see this movie? I think it's a skippable one. It's not that memorable. There are some very good moments in my opinion, but definitely a skippable movie though. That's
Cool.
my review. Yeah.
I like some of what you said. You said about the movie having no identity. I think is very true. I also think that what you said about the movie having high highs is just false, objectively false.
Well, I'm gonna talk about it when we get into spoilers.
shall
But I
discuss.
did appreciate some parts of the movie. I really
Sure.
like some parts.
We'll
If
get
I
into
were
it.
to jump into my spoiler-free review, I will
may.
say I would not say there are high highs in this movie. I would say that there are some points that are higher than others, but if you are if you are in a valley or like you're in a prairie or something,
Anything's going up.
then a hill is a mountain, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, so okay, so to start with like some of the more positive things I have to say about this movie, again, I actually think like while being dumb and manufactured and weak, I think the script like follows a story and it feels like a more complete story than Thor: Love and Thunder. That's what I'll say.
It's absolutely better than Thor.
I actually think the script is better than Thor: Love and Thunder because I think the whole time watching this, I had that in my head about comparing the two. I think it's a better script. And then I also think there are some times where it's like there's a legitimately like funny or interesting idea that they just don't do. Like it just ruins itself in a way that is not fun. I would go as far as to say that this is not a movie. This is a vacuous void that has taken the shape of a movie. I like at no point felt like they were in a real place. This world didn't feel like a real place. It didn't feel like the characters were there. It's just bizarre. It's empty. It feels like there's no one there. It feels like there's no consequence to anything. It feels like there's not much point to anything. I think that this movie is annoying. I think that most of the comedy is very annoying. I think the CGI is bad. I think the action's bad. I think this movie's bad. And so I would not recommend this, and I'd probably give this 1.5 or 2 stars.
Me and Aiden are gonna be like just shaking hands the whole episode. I swear to God, this movie was I cannot emphasize this enough. An excruciating watch. I watched this morning. I woke up at maybe I started this at like 8:30, and I didn't drink a lot last night, but I had a beer, and so I felt like just a little bit hungover, just because like I don't drink very much, and like let me tell you, I felt that. I was like, this plus the Flash is like terrible. The Flash is not a hangover cure.
Yeah, and
But
see, I had come home from the same event having drank more than that, and then watched it immediately upon getting home. And I'm like not convinced that the movie I watched was like real. Like I'm part of me is kind of like that's not what it was. There's something else. Like I watched a torrented like bizarro version. That's not what the movie is. There's no way.
did you continue to drink while watching the movie?
No, I drank
Oh,
two
we had
cups of
talked about
tea
doing
actually.
that. Okay.
Yeah, I drank 2 cups
Yeah,
of tea because I needed to stay awake, but that was it.
fair enough. That was quite late, so yeah,
And
I
you were
could not
able to
imagine
sleep
staying up
afterwards.
for that.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Like a CGI baby.
yeah.
But anyways, back to my review. I felt very drained watching this movie. It's just like nonstop. Ezra Miller as Barry Allen is a pain. There's a line in the movie that's so great. He's like, "You're not." He's talking to himself. "You're not charming. You're abrasive." And I said, "Yes, you get it. You understand. Why are you putting me through this saw trap of a movie where I have to watch two Barry Allens talk to each other in like the most annoying nerd speak? I don't know how they created this character that feels like sitting on like pins. I don't know, but it was awful. What else can I say? The emotional arc of this movie, I could not care less about, and I don't think the movie cares that much either.
No.
I think they threw
I
it
think
in
it gets
because they
confused about what it is, too.
what?
I think it gets
Um,
confused about exactly what it is the arc
I
is as well.
I think yes. I think the movie does not know what it's about, what it's trying to say. I think emotionally, it also like there's just a lot of like vagary, like vague things going on. Um, it's a movie that seems competent. This is what Aiden was saying. It seems competent. It has the structure, but this is pretty much just because it's copying a comic book storyline. If it wasn't just ripping off a comic book and changing some of the details, I think this movie would just like fall apart completely. The direction is really bad. It's like, or like it's fine, but like also there's some like just like it's nothing. It's a nothing direction, and I am shocked that Andy Muschietti is getting to direct the Batman movie. That is insane. What else could I say? The Easter egging and it's not even Easter egging at this point because it's part of the movie, but things calling back to older movies, and it's just like, what are we doing, guys? It's the laziest of the version of this that I've ever seen. Like if I didn't care for No Way Home, but even watching that, I had a good time. And
Sure.
like this was just like lowest common denominator. We're barely trying. Michael Keaton is barely trying. I would rather watch Thor: Love and Thunder again. I would rather watch Thor: Love and Thunder 5 times in a row than have to watch this movie again, because at the very least, I can laugh while watching Thor: Love and Thunder. I can laugh at the stupidity that is on screen. It's trying to be so funny and failing that the failure is funny. The failure of the Flash is not funny. it's depressing. This is a depressing movie, and the ending is so fucking cynical. It's like, this movie is crazy, and I cannot wait to talk about it. I haven't rated it yet, but I think I'm gonna land with Aiden. I thought I would give it a 2, but just because of like how it has ruined me emotionally, I might have to dip it down to 1.5. For reference, I gave Black Adam a 2 stars. I'm not sure I would still give it 2 stars. I might give it less, but it's about the same. DC has been putting out movies of roughly the same quality for a little bit. Thank God the DCU is dead. That's all I can say. Anyways, and last thing, I would not recommend people go watch this unless I had a sworn enemy, in which case I would tell them to watch this movie.
It's not dead though. Did you hear they're bringing back Gal Gadot for another?
What a fascinating decision. Yeah. Of all the people in the DCU, we could talk about that too. But before we do, we have to recap this movie for people who have not seen it. And boy, do I recommend you do not watch this movie. Yeah. Just listen to us talk about it. Don't give the corporation money for shit. So it's actually me who has to do it, I'm realizing. Peter, yes. Or Aiden, can you give us a spoiler warning before I have to do this?
Wee-woo, spoiler time.
We're in
the spoiler zone.
We're actually in the spoiler verse. The force. We're in the Speed Force spoiler force.
Yeah. We are now in the spoiler zone.
We're in the spoiler sphere. The chronosphere.
Spoiler sphere, yeah.
And I'm looking at all the spoilers. Oh my
God. We're gonna see our past podcasts coming through too. All of our worst takes.
So I have 2 minutes, unless I can race through time and whatever flash joke. I have 2 minutes to summarize this movie, and I'll do it. Okay, 3, 2, 1, here we go. So the Flash is friends with Batman after Justice League. Batman blew up a hospital. I'm just kidding. A bad guy blew up a hospital, and the Flash has been sent in to save it. He does. Then he is in trouble at work. His dad is in prison for murdering his mother. He probably didn't do it, but Barry has no proof. Barry decides to go back in time all of a sudden and put a can of tomatoes in Mom's cart because that stopped a murderer from killing Mom, apparently. So tomato good, murder bad. Flash is like, well, that was enough. He's pushed out of the time stream as he's trying to go back home. And he is now in 2013, where he is 18 years old, supposedly. And he meets himself, and he tries to give himself powers because he's landed on the day he's supposed to get powers. So he goes to give young Barry powers, but in doing that, loses his own powers. So only young Barry has powers now, and he's shit at it, and he makes a big mess. Also, 2013, if you remember, Man of Steel happens. Apparently Barry was there too and saved a kid and a dad died. Crazy. It doesn't matter later though. So Man of Steel is happening during this movie. Just wait, I need to focus. Man of Steel is happening. They go to see Batman for some reason because they need help to stop Zod. And there's no other superheroes around. And they need to find Superman. And they think Batman will find Superman. Batman is Michael Keaton. It's not Ben Affleck. They go to find where they think Superman is. It is not Superman. It is Supergirl. Kara doesn't want to help, but then she does. She's healed by the radiating power of the sun. She gets a tan. And then they go to stop Zod, who is not in Metropolis. He is in a desert wasteland. And they try to stop him, and they fail, and they keep failing, and they keep going back in time and retrying the battle, and it just keeps going bad. Young Barry Allen eventually tries so hard that he becomes an old man, and he's just covered in... I lost time. I'll finish up, though. He's a bitter old man. He's the bad guy who pushed him out of the time stream. Old Barry's like, it's fine. Young Barry dies. Barry goes back in time, undoes what he does, and then everything is back to normal. Or is it?
Except in George Clooney.
That was so silly, by the way. Like,
what were you laughing at? I didn't know what I said.
George Clooney.
No. What was really funny to me is I forgot, unless I'm misremembering, they cut to the kid in Metropolis as if like, oh, we're gonna see how this plays out now, and then it never cuts back.
Never cuts back. That kid died. That kid died is all we know. So that was very funny. That's another thing of like this movie just being so stupid that it doesn't see the glaring threads that it's just leaving.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Also, the other thing I forgot, we never find out who actually killed his mom.
Yes.
Do we?
Yes.
That's never
No, we
happened.
don't.
I was
love
thinking,
this.
at the end, I was like, so what? You need to explain this because what happened? She was just in her kitchen and got stabbed, and no one was there. Like we need
Yes.
to know because I watched the Flash show, right? And in the show, it was like the Reverse Flash who had killed her. Like that was, and it's like that makes sense. Like that ties into not that that's the greatest show ever, but that plot makes sense. Like what is the explanation to this movie? That's too significant to not mention.
I'm going to take over the role of Barry Allen, and I'm going to walk you through the case, okay? So they're making pasta, because that is the only meal that exists in this movie. Yeah. Pasta, weird sandwiches, and burritos. Yeah. So they're making pasta. They forgot a can of tomatoes. So Dad has to leave conveniently. Very convenient. He has to leave to get the tomatoes. Barry, at some point, stops helping his mother and goes upstairs. I don't know if he's working on the math problem. Maybe he is. He's working on seemingly an impossible theorem that has been given to a 10-year-old.
No, that's not what it is, in fairness. No. It's just like one of those questions you get in elementary school where it's like...
What makes 24?
All the possible ways to do this. And it's just the point, you're just supposed to list a bunch of... Yeah.
Okay, sure. So he's upstairs now, leaving an opportunity, I suppose. Bad person just walking in the middle of like a suburban neighborhood. This isn't like in a quote unquote sketchy area. This is like a really like nice place. Someone is walking down the street, enters a random home. It's not like the door is open. Enters a random home and stabs mom in the stomach with a knife, and then just like walks away.
Yeah, is out of there so quickly.
And like immediately after,
the dad comes back.
The dad is home. Yeah. And the dad just didn't see anybody. Because what we hear is, we hear mom scream, and then dad is there saying Barry. So I think the movie is telling us that Barry's dad did kill the mom. That is the only thing I can get from this movie, is that Barry's an idiot, and that he just truly believes his dad did not... Like, he's just been, like, manipulated into thinking this, because the only evidence points to Barry's dad being the killer. That's all I could...
That's really funny. I think, well, now remembering, there is a line, though, where they try to explain it like, yeah, I guess someone had wandered in and got spooked or something. Isn't there a line where they try
spooked? like, maybe they said that. They
don't say spooked, but they say there's a line like that where they're like, a guy walked in and didn't expect her to be there or something. I swear that happens in the movie.
Yes. I think I remember it. They thought like they were robbing an empty house, and then
yeah.
Sure, it's a robbery.
It's an empty house if it's just a random house in the suburbs. Like they would they like sneak it out for one day and be like, oh no, there are people here.
And also at like dinner time, like at a regular time where people are typically at home, as far as
broad daylight.
Yeah, and so I guess it was a bunch of horses, because they entered the home and they got spooked, and naturally, as horses do, spooked horses are wild, so they snap.
Yeah, it was Piaf. That movie we saw.
It's Piaf, yeah. No, but it is genuinely crazy that for a movie where they're trying to prove the dad's innocence, they just do not have a counter theory. I guess you could say like, okay, like to give it maybe some credit, it's like, one, if you are trying to go from Barry's perspective of like just truly not knowing what happened, sure, don't tell us actually what happened, because how would you know? But also, this is a man with time traveling powers, and also the explanation you are supposing happened does not make sense. So there's kind of like, it doesn't work anyways.
It's also like, you don't even have to reveal who it is. Just have like a line at the end where it's like, we still need to find out who it is, like what could have happened to her. Because then that implies like, oh, okay, we'll just explore that later. But they just don't, they just like, the dad's good, and it's like, all right, cool, the case is done. Closed. We're out of here.
Also, like, I don't think that evidence is as exonerating as they think it is, because again, he was at the store comes back and kills his wife there. That's what we saw.
I
She
was
is
also
stabbed, and he is home immediately after.
I was also
He
thinking
did
like
it.
I was also like, maybe I'm wrong here, but like, so they would know exactly what clothes he was wearing on that day, and they would know what hat he has, because he presumably would have it the moment he came home and would not change before the police got there.
Yes.
So how is the video evidence in the store not evidence already? Like, how is it already like it's like the same guy? I'm sure there were witnesses. No one saw him at the store. Like, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
I just like, what?
Like,
Like I
unless.
usually don't nitpick this hard, but when a movie is like, if a movie was good and like if there were good thematic reasons for why things happen, then I might forgive a little bit. But because this movie is so empty and vapid and just pointless, like I have to overthink these things.
Like it's basically just suggesting that it had to be Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, but they also make no effort to imply that that could be the case, because I don't like honestly I don't know why he is such an integral part of the original story, and I can understand how in this movie adding that would be overwhelming, and I think
Yeah,
not doing that is probably for the best, but
yeah.
also they know that this universe is like the universe like Ben like Michael Keaton's Batman universe. This DCEU universe is fated to die, so they don't even bother anymore. They're not gonna set up a future
Yeah,
movie in a post-credit scene and tease the Reverse Flash that never comes. So they're just
yeah.
like, forget about it. Don't worry about it.
Well, I was gonna say within that, like one of my criticisms of this movie is like, why is this what the plot is? Like, I truly don't understand. Like Zod Man of Steel stuff could be anything. It could be any threat.
Mm-hmm.
It does not matter that it's him. So why not make it something like tighter? Why not make like is Evilberry supposed to be like Savitar or whatever? Like, because I remember
That's
that.
what I was thinking.
Is that
It
what he's
looks like
supposed to be?
because Savitar in the show was also Barry. So
Yeah.
yes, essentially.
Yeah. Right. And so, okay, like, why not just make him the villain and just like make it a different threat? Because basically, well, okay, I guess you have to find Supergirl, but I don't know, just he wants to find Supergirl. Come up with a different reason. I don't know. Like, I don't understand. It's such a weird. This plot takes weird detours that if you just had a constant threat that was a real character instead of just Michael Shannon clearly not caring about this and valid, don't get me wrong, and just a looming threat that could be anything, then like why?
You are absolutely correct. They did not need to do Man of Steel. I think
Yeah.
their idea was we have a time travel movie, and oh my god, what if there were two Barry Allens, I guess? Because the other thing is, like, in Flashpoint, he does it and then just goes back to the present. They decided to make it a flashback joke
Yeah.
movie where we are not in the present day, a Back to the Future movie. So this was a choice, and in doing that, I can understand how they were tempted to be like, oh well, while we're back here, let's revisit. So essentially, they did an Endgame. They wanted to have their
Right.
Endgame moment,
That's what I
but
figured.
just like everything else in the DCEU, they did not set up these moments. It's actually funny to realize that the distance between Man of Steel and the Flash, I think, is almost exactly the same as the distance between Iron Man and Endgame. And yet, for some reason, we're like, yeah, that was enough. That was enough. Like, the time isn't the problem. It's the amount of projects, I suppose, and
Yeah.
how those projects weave across each other and how they're actually more or less building a coherent, constant story that is heading to an inevitable endpoint, an end game, if you will.
Yeah.
Whereas this movie is just another chain in a long, confusing mess of chains, like one of the like that famous knot that is
It's like spaghetti.
unsolvable. It's a spaghetti of chains and knots. So like that is the reason why.
Yeah.
The
Sorry,
Supergirl thing.
can we
Mhm.
actually take? Oh no, I don't want to cut your point. I was gonna say, can we take a break just because two things I think I fucked up here because my it's fine, but like I don't have headphones in, and I realize my Audacity recording is getting your audio too because I don't have
Okay.
headphones in. So I need
Okay.
to plug in headphones, and I also need to go to the bathroom.
Okay, I'll finish my point and then we'll do
Okay.
it, and I'll get some water.
Sorry to cut you off. I thought you were done.
That's okay. And the thing about Kara too is that the Superman is in the original Flashpoint. All of the Justice League are, but the thing that they're trying to prevent, obviously, Man of Steel does not happen in the comics, is just a new thing that they created. It's in this parallel weird world. The Amazons are fighting the Atlanteans, so they just construct this thing that they have to stop, a world-ending event that means this universe in that comic as well is just doomed, fated to die, so we should just reset everything. So they kind of like combined that and Endgame and found this solution, but it's messy, and I think it really doesn't work because, like Peter can talk about shortly, no one gives a shit about Man of Steel except Snyder heads. And so it's referencing a movie most people have no love for. And so and also do not remember. So it's just like a lot of recapping.
It also does, oh my god, there's so much of this movie that is just like, so there's so much of this movie where they're just explaining Man of Steel, and it's like, I have seen this movie for one thing, and I also don't give a fuck enough for you. Like, I get there's a threat, like, whatever. It also doesn't closely follow Man of Steel enough for anything to, like, it's in this wasteland desert instead of being Metropolis. Like, it's just... It doesn't even feel like Man of Steel. It's just like we have these action figures from Man of Steel. I don't even like that movie, but like,
yeah. Peter, why don't you tell us about your experience watching Man of Steel for the first time?
Man of Steel? Okay. So, I mean, I've I've never been like a Snyder fan. Like, I don't mind his movies. I don't think I've seen that many of his films actually. I think I've never seen Watchmen. Is it really just the Justice League and
It's 300 as well.
300.
300 I've not seen as well.
Sucker Punch.
Let's
Did
see.
Guardians of Ga'Hoole.
Oh, he did do that.
You did that. Yeah.
Well, I actually
wasn't part of that.
okay, this is really sad. So I've seen Batman v Superman, Justice League, and Army of Dead.
Army of the
okay.
Dead, that's correct.
Yeah. But anyways, like, I just thought, like, I think one thing Snyder really excels at is like creating the aesthetic and visuals of like this, because like even though there's comic books on these characters, it's still very much up to the director and also the visual team's interpretation on how they want to craft their worlds. And I think like both I've seen from his behind the scene look at Rebel Moon and his work on DC, like his sense of visual style is very, very strong. But the movie itself is just not strong at all. Like there was a lot of random zoom ins during the movie. I don't want to take too much time. Flash, but
that was back in the era of when action movies were doing that all the time. The Star Trek movies used to do that too. Like the things where it would be like someone flying through the air and then it would like suddenly zoom in.
That really annoyed me.
That was like common back then.
And then also, like the movie's plot is like really shit, and the other thing is like they're just casually fighting in like big cities and crashing buildings, which I get. It was really cool to see visually, but then you just think it's like, yo, like aren't is he supposed to protect these people? And then you just see, it was like, okay, Zod's coming, okay, better send him through a building, and the building just started crashing down. But anyways, I thought like the visual style was top tier, like 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, like that good. But the movie itself, unfortunately, like the plot, the acting, and also the general depiction of the Superman character, I wasn't really into. Like I'm all for like going for a darker take on superheroes. I think that's really cool. But like when it's not set up, when there's no proper background, like you're just not invested in the characters. Like
it just feels
like,
edgy for edgy.
Exactly. Like I don't care where you take the character, as long as the journey makes sense and I'm emotionally invested in it. Like of course I would care. But like in this case, it's like you take character into an interesting spot, but you have no proper setup for it. So it's like,
yeah,
not a great movie.
Yeah, which is why it's so funny that the Flash is insisted on referencing it and making it popular again.
And I would say this about the Flash though, because I watched. So for context, I watched the Flash last night, and then back to back I watched Man of Steel. The way they inserted Man of Steel plot or like story into the Flash was like accurate, because like it was supposed to be the Americans bringing Superman to Zod at like the desert wasteland, and then because the Americans did not have Superman, Zod killed their general, and then I guess just started off the chain of events in the Flash. So like I thought that was fine. Like that's
Sure.
Like I mean, of course, not the most interesting location for you to do battle, but like again, like all of these are just background for the Flash to realize that he can't really change everything, which is okay. Yeah.
There is a problem in that, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
Zod is still requesting that they bring him Superman, correct? In this movie, right? In the Flash.
Yes. Yeah.
In Man of Steel, in Man of Steel. In Man of Steel,
he's saying, "Bring me Superman."
Yeah, he said, "Bring Kal."
Killed Superman. Does he?
I think
he doesn't say Kara.
No, I think he just says bring me the Kryptonian.
The Kryptonian in the Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, okay.
Because
yeah.
because well, like I guess like sorry, so much Man of Steel. Basically there were like two baby pods that got sent out of Krypton.
No, I know.
And then
I know that. Yeah.
And then like the Codex is in one of these pods, and he intercepted Kal-El, which is Superman's pod, and then didn't find the Codex, so it has to be in the other pod basically, which is Kara. Yeah.
I will say about Man of Steel is that watching The Flash made me miss Man of Steel.
Really?
Seriously.
I thought genuinely.
I will say, like, the way, like, the action and the sped up action is so bad in this movie. All of the hits, like, they don't feel like real hits. And the compliment that I will give Man of Steel is that when they're like flying and punching each other,
it feels very visceral.
It feels like very fast, strong guys punching each other, and I'm like, okay, you got me there. Like, I think the Smallville fight in that movie is very cool. It's kind of dumb for a number of reasons, but I think it's actually fun to watch and pretty well shot. And like, I missed that watching this.
Yeah, and the big thing about Man of Steel is, of course, the Metropolis fight, which it's one of those, like, it's a cinema sins way of looking at movies, to watch Man of Steel and say, oh, but the suit, like, why is there so much collateral damage? Why are there, like so many people are dying in this fight, in the Metropolis fight? Yeah, that's the point, is that Zod is like a deranged killing machine, and the opposite of what Superman is.
Well,
he's causing, like, well, just I know,
sure,
but like,
yeah,
like the idea of that works in a sense. Again, I don't really want to defend that movie because I don't like it, but
yeah,
it's the issue is that because people were so critical of that fight, that's why we have this final act of The Flash, is because superhero movies specifically have become afraid of collateral damage, of the idea that civilians could die in their movies. So now the fight in this movie is in an open plain, and the stakes are non-existent. It's just like, I don't care what the fuck happens, because it's like no one could possibly get hurt who isn't a soldier fighting. We just moved the battlefield to an open plain, and it just, like, it truly just does not work. Also, like, there's the kid thing in this movie, which makes it even a stranger choice. But
that's so
also
funny.
like movies like apparently in Fast and Furious also have been affected by this. In the latest one, there's like a scene where like a bomb is rolling in Rome or something, and it causes a bunch of damage. And there's a news report after that sequence that says, thankfully no one was hurt, no one died. It's like,
That's
why
awesome.
are we so afraid of like people dying? Like, that's what heroism is like, trying and failing, and that's part of the failure of this movie, and it's very frustrating.
I'll just quickly comment on Man of Steel, and then I'll talk about the battle scene in The Flash. Like, I just thought it's really strange in Man of Steel, because like sometimes it's Zod sort of crashing Superman into buildings, but there are other times where it's Superman crushing Zod into buildings. Especially when relating it back to the final conclusion, the climax of the battle, where they were sort of grappling each other at the metro station, and like Zod is trying to laser a bunch of guys, just like a family, you know, and Superman's like trying, don't make me do this, while he literally crashed Zod into buildings. But anyways, enough about Man of Steel. What I would say about the plane sequence, though, I think it's more so, I don't think the stake in that sequence is more about the collateral damage. I think that's the stake in that sequence is about sort of Flash learning a lesson on he can't really use his superpowers to fix everything, which I thought was pretty well done. Like, because like initially I thought it's literally gonna be first act him, you know, changing something, second act him in the new world trying to find Batman and Supergirl, and then third act them winning against Zod. I think him losing in that instance is actually like a really fun way of like resolving that issue. And like the whole stake in the scene is not about collateral damage, it's more about Flash's internal battle of sort of letting go in the sense of you not using his superpower to fix everything. I thought it was good.
Okay, I have two things. First, I just want to say that in some ways the criticism against collateral damage can be silly, but it's also very valid because the criticism is the heroes should not actively be causing it. And the problem is that like at a certain point heroes stopped saving people. Superhero movies stopped having scenes in which the superhero just says like, oh, I just need to save these people, and they're like leaving a fight to try to save someone. That's what the solution is to do the exact same Man of Steel fight, just as destructive, but Superman is trying his hardest to save people, and that just raises the stakes, and that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Like
that's the difference between Superman and Zod as well. Zod doesn't give a fuck, but Superman cares about the people and would sometimes choose the people over, you know, fighting his enemy.
And that's why Man of Steel is dumb. However, this Flash fight is infinitely worse. And Peter, I think that the things you're saying would just be improved upon if it was in a metropolitan area. Like the idea that Flash needs to learn the lesson that he can't solve every problem and he just has to let go. And like if he saw like civilians like dying, and it doesn't need to be graphic, but it's like they're running away from something and it's looking dire, right? And he just saw that and he was like, oh, I can't do anything about this. I also have a point about that, but that's later. Like that you just learn the lesson harder. It's just driven home more.
I agree.
Yeah, not to pile on too much, but yeah, you're conflating message and stakes. Stakes are used to only further prove the message. So in order for a battle to feel more intense and like and this isn't necessary, but one really good thing for a battle to like make it feel more impactful is showing the impacts it has on other people, right? The soldiers, you kind of go like, oh well, you know, like they're fighting they're trying to be heroes. The heroes are trying to be heroes. Heroes probably aren't gonna die, I guess not in this movie, but you know, like it's different when you're seeing the destruction they're causing, and it is, yeah, it's superhero movies don't feature a lot of saving people. That point Aiden made is really good. There are actually very few superhero movies I can think of right now where heroes go out of their way to save people. They're just truly fighting the bad guys 90% of the time.
They used to. In like the Raimi Spider-Man movies, that happens all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. But like think of Avengers Civil War, Captain America Civil War. They put the battle in an airport. Why? Because it's an empty battlefield where the heroes can duke it out with no consequences. Would that battle not have been more impactful, proven the message more, the message being the superheroes need to stop their petty differences and look at the destruction they're causing, if the destruction they were causing had impacts on civilians, if civilians were at the airport.
True.
But instead it's an empty airport, so it doesn't matter. That's the thing. Also, it just looks like an open sandbox, like Like they just truly like created like hit generate world, and we're like, yeah, that's good.
It looks like it looks like a fucking PS3 game. Like it looks so bad, and it's also like one compliment I had of the movie is the very first time, or it's one of the very first times that Barry runs fast in the movie. There's a shot where it goes down to his foot, and we see it's not a dolly zoom, but it's like mimicking a dolly zoom a little bit.
It's like a stretch.
Where like it's like a stretch, and the world like becomes wider. I'm like, that's an interesting visual idea that he's running so fast that the world actually just feels bigger, and that the contortion of time contorts space as well. That's interesting. But then the entire movie is shot on these bizarre wide angle shots, regardless of whether or not he's actually running fast. Like, just when they're just like normally standing there in this final scene, it's this really weird hovering wide angle camera. And it's like, that doesn't, like, if that visual motif means this, then it should mean that. It shouldn't just be something that you use whatever.
Yeah, the way the Flash's powers are depicted. I mean, I think superhero movies have been having a problem with speedsters generally, post Quicksilver, who I think might have been the first one. But Quicksilver did the slow motion thing. That was a really nice scene. The issue is that everyone tried to do it, and it was like, can we see something different? And I think the Flash does try to do some different things. It does a slow motion scene. I did like that one. One you mentioned. It also tries a bit where the scenery is moving quite fast and he's moving fast, so kind of the combination that Makari was doing in Eternals. That one was fine. I think the CGI really showed itself there, but I don't know. I never felt like the Flash's powers. He didn't feel particularly fast, and I think that's kind of like the issue with going for the slow motion thing. And it just kind of makes his powers less clear. Like, I thought you were supposed to be fast. Why are you just going slow? You know?
Well, what I like about and maybe this is a remedy or an improved version, is what I like about the Days of Future Past X-Men Quicksilver prison, like Pentagon scene, is I like that we see him do all of this in slow motion. And so we get the sense that he's doing it really fast, and then we see the consequences of it all in rapid, fast cuts, where it's suddenly in real time again. And that's really nice. Because then we go into his perspective, and then flash back out to everyone else in the room's perspective of how that actually occurred, which is just like boom, 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 boom. All these things happen, and suddenly everyone's knocked out, and that's fun. But like this movie is just like, the transition out of speed, I think, is actually really important. And in this one, it's just like, we're done. We're out of there. We're not fast anymore. And I think like that difference of perspective would be interesting.
Yeah. I'd say generally Barry's powers in this movie are also just very confusing, and like I like how they keep establishing rules and then not following up on them, or just like it only applies in this one scene to build stakes, because to use it again later would be too complicated, or it just like would break it. It would break the movie if we remembered the rules that we've established. Some of them include that he needs to fuel up. This is only important in the first 10 minutes of the movie, and you think it might be important later on. It is not. And also, not only is it important in the first 10 minutes, they bring it up when young Barry gets his powers. So when you've done something twice, you have to do it the third time. You have to bring it up again to prove that it's important, but it's not.
Well, if you introduce a gun in the first act, then it should just kind of be there in the third.
It's Chekhov's PBRC whatever sandwich. He also mentions rules about friction. Rules about what can and cannot be moved, which they do break in the movie, but I don't think it broke in the... Like, they said that you can't move certain things because of friction. He moves Barry, and the issue is not friction. It's that it makes him violently ill.
Yeah.
Which is it? I don't know. The phasing through floors, if he starts phasing, why does it sometimes work through floors and other times he is not sinking through floors if he's just phasing through walls?
I saw
that's not an issue.
To me, that one was like the wall. Like
the way, and this is my understanding from the show, is that like he's looking at the thing he wants to go through, and he's like, I'm vibrating at this particular frequency, and I'm focusing on this instead of the thing that's below me.
Sure. I honestly think a lot of these problems would be if you did not set them up as.
I agree, absolutely.
Take out the rules and you have no problems. You just say it happens. It's the over scientification. That's a great word of the movie that is actually the problem.
Yeah.
Trying to solve all the answers for a movie that just will not have them because it is not. It's not science fiction. It's not based on science. It's fantasy. Why even bother?
And ironically, it's trying to. Not every problem has a solution.
That's great. But honestly, I would say though, like I think these things are fun in like very isolated context. Like if like outside, if they exist by itself, it's like, oh, have you thought about like the immense cost of running this fast and actually like when it comes to energy and stuff like that. But like when you introduce them in like a movie, which is a continuous sort of like a continuously evolving story, it like the fact that you have to reference it back just becomes tiring. Especially like I mean it's probably the reason why they don't reference back during big battle sequences. It's like, oh, they probably just have full energy the whole time. They had a lot of food beforehand or something, and like. That just like creates a lot of inconsistency for no reason. Like I think the other one is probably about the clothes, cause like when Young Barry first got his powers, he was running around and then all his clothes caught on fire. But then afterwards, I think he was wearing like normal street clothes as well and was running around and nothing happened. So just a lot of unnecessary inconsistencies.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's because the issue is when you establish the rules, and boy, do they want to establish some more rules than was necessary in a Flash movie, because not only do we have to explain the Flash's powers, we also have to explain my favorite thing,
the rules,
time travel. You have to explain the rules, and they go quite a different route from some other recent time travel movies and classic time travel movies as well. Many like the branching idea, and they in fact mention this the end game concept where you go back in time, and any changes you make results in a diverging timeline. You're not changing the present you have come from. Other ones say it's a continuous loop, a paradox, etc. They choose something different. They call it a fulcrum, in which when you go back to the past, it causes ripples in both directions that changes things in both directions. Man, is that stupid? Maybe it makes sense.
I actually kind of like that. I
really like it too.
I thought that was a fun idea actually, because I was thinking in the movie, I was like, I was like, but how is this changed? He's not before then. Like this is before his time. Too, I was confused, and then no, I actually think that's an interesting idea. That like it just skews because they don't play with this idea in a well enough way, but the idea of like time isn't linear, we just perceive it that way. And so like any changes are like just sending ripples all the way. I actually do think that's very interesting. And I will say as well, another compliment I have, the chronodrome thing, I like that within that it's just like a circle. Like it's not like a line he's running through and he goes to the past. I like that it's like, because they're taking on this approach that time isn't linear, I like the visual representation of it's just this like circle that's kind of like fluctuating around him, and I think that that's kind of interesting.
Absolutely.
Peter, I think you had a point.
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. The issue I have is that like, if you look at it from like string theory or quantum mechanics, like that someone could convince me that this is true, but in a Flash movie, I struggle to be like, how does he go back time and then thing before change? I don't know. Maybe. I think my bigger issue with the time travel rules is that it is inconsistent whether or not if he time travels, is there a second one of him or is he his old self?
Yeah.
So the movie presupposes that if he goes back in time, there should be another Barry. This makes sense to me. And he does that a couple of times. There is another Barry there. Biggest example is younger Barry, who was there most of the movie. But then when they start doing the Kryptonian battle in the open field,
Yeah.
they go back in time constantly, and they are the only Flashes on the battlefield. What you should have suggested, like if you're following the same rules, there would have been millions of Flashes on that battlefield, which would have looked insane. But like those are the rules you made up.
Yeah.
You made your bed, lay in it. Like, pick one. Which is it?
I thought it was fine though, because the battlefield is supposed to be like one of those fulcrums, right? So like that's where all the timelines experience the same event. I don't know.
But
Yeah, that's a vague explanation.
Yeah,
Like
it
I
doesn't
don't think
matter.
that explains it.
the fulcrum thing was very hand wavy, where it's just like it's a fulcrum. So sometimes, okay. My point though, my complaint though, and this is a. Do you have another thing to say about this? Because mine is a little different than. I was gonna say, they're like, this universe is doomed. We can't save it.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Why? There's no possibility in which they could save this. What do you mean? Like, because let's follow the logic here. Even if the Kryptonians win, the universe doesn't end. They just rule Earth. So what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? The universe is going to dissolve. No, it isn't. Like, I just don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they lose in every timeline, which I don't buy. Like, why do they? I just don't buy that with what is set up.
Yeah.
I don't buy that they could not have won. And maybe it's just like, I think that's the setup of the situation. I think that like it's what they showed us, like the attempts, like Batman guns the ship and then he doesn't, and neither of those things worked, so he's fucked. It's like, do anything else. Yeah, like, yeah, so that's my problem with the time of that scene as well.
So I'll answer your question in the sense of the movie, and then I'll actually critique the movie. So in the sense of the movie, I think they offer up an explanation. I think their explanation is that because it is a fulcrum point and they keep playing with it, it's like the pasta that's breaking or whatever. No, that's not really what he did. But anyways, they're breaking the space-time continuum by going back and back and back and back. So it's not necessarily that Zod would destroy the universe, it's that their meddling would destroy the universe. So when the worlds start crashing into each other, that would have destroyed everything.
Okay.
I think that's what they meant.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I do agree with you that the take that what they decide to do essentially is the story goes that Barry goes back in time to save his mother, and he can't do that because the past is written and it's fixed. But I think the issue is that like that is the most obvious takeaway from the story, is that you can't change the past because humans can't change the past. So that's the lesson he inevitably must learn. But I also think that you can take that story and give it a different theme, a different meaning. And they decide that the meaning they take away is a very pessimistic, like, fate is written, some things are just going to be, like, destroyed. You can't change anything, you don't have free will. That's the message it seems to be giving me. Compare that to the movie that came out almost at the same time, Spider-Verse, which said fate is not written, and you should just like always. People will continually tell you what you should be and how things are supposed to go, and you should block that out and just follow your heart. And maybe fate isn't as written as you think it is. Anything is achievable.
I'm gonna do my own thing.
And exactly, I'm gonna do my own thing. And while they're both kind of like yes, both agree that you can't change the past, but they're taking that and coming up with two different conclusions. And the conclusion the Flash has is sucky and bad. And I think that there are, and we'll talk about what we would have done instead later. I kind of want to save it, but I think there are several routes the Flash could have gone that were more hopeful, that gave actual positive, heroic messaging. That still, the underlying premise is, yeah, but you can't change the past, sure, but it's changing how you look at the future and how you go forward, what actions you can and cannot take. And the Flash goes with like a truly depressing version of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, just on that, if you don't mind me going to a different topic that's sort of related, I want to talk about his relationship with Batman. That's like one I think one of their big fumbles of this movie. I think it's I when I saw the first trailer for The Flash and I saw him getting paired up with Keaton's Batman, it's about a story of him going back to the past trying to save his parents. I thought I don't know if maybe it's done in the comics or something, but I thought it was a very creative pairing. Like they both have very traumatic. They both have a very traumatic past related to their family, and both of them, I guess, like one way or another, wish like their parents are still here with them. And I think it's just really interesting that Batman could offer some perspective to the Flash on like why maybe it's not the best idea to change the past and actually save their parents, and how you can use that as sort of motivation or like something to help to shape your present and like view it as like part of your journey instead of like a defining moment. And like the fact that the Batman in this movie was just straight up used for like nostalgic purposes, which is just such a big miss in my opinion. Like there is so much they can talk about, because like out of all the people I can think of in like comics or like just like movies in general, like Batman and Flash could actually have meaningful conversation on this topic because they actually have this sort of shared experience in their past. But instead, they just went down the cheapest route possible when it comes to that.
Yeah, I think that kind of similar to what Alex is saying. I really hated the way the way this movie talks about trauma is so like is so dumb. And like they say the statement like, oh, you can't let your trauma define you, like that's not what it is. But it's like that's not what the conclusion of the movie is. The conclusion is like it absolutely does define you, and because the only reason the Barrys are so different is because one of them's mom got killed and the other one didn't. And so like because of that he's just a completely different person, and it takes over his whole personality to the point where they're not like the same guy. When they're together, like they're not even the same guy like at all. So it's like, yeah, that did define you. It completely defined you. And I think that's such a dumb conclusion. I had another point. There's another thing towards the end that made me feel that way as well. I don't remember what it was. But I think that's such a silly way to look at like a person's behavior in general is all because of this one thing that happened to them. Or there are like a few specific moments and that is who they are.
Canon events.
Yeah.
And I think Batman, the reason why they're paired up is like one, that's what was set up in Justice League. Like Justice League kind of became, or Batman became the Iron Man to Flash's Spider-Man essentially. Like they're just doing, like you said, it's the same pairing as Homecoming. But in addition to that, the Flashpoint comic storyline, a much better version of this happens in that Batman is not Bruce Wayne; it is his father, Thomas Wayne. Because
yeah.
In that version, Bruce Wayne was shot down in the alley, causing Thomas Wayne to become the Batman, and added detail that I imagine the Flash should never have tried to attempt to show this, but Martha Wayne, Bruce's mother, becomes the Joker. So good that we didn't see that, but it's so stupid. But to have seen Thomas Wayne would have been like significantly better, I think. And you could also have said that Michael Keaton was Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
But like to explore a new avenue instead of the rote, constant repeated Batman origin story of, oh yeah, my parents died, to see a different version of that, for Jeffrey Dean Morgan to come back. He was Thomas Wayne in a flashback in Batman vs Superman, I believe.
Yeah.
To see him come back as Thomas Wayne and be Batman, or Michael Keaton, as I said, I think would be so much better. There's a new layer to this now, where as a father figure, Barry doesn't have a father figure, and he's lost a son. Barry's lost a mother. There's something there. I also just think that Michael Keaton at 70 years old, still like talking about like
he's 70. He's not 70, right?
He's 70. He is 70.
It's like,
still,
but let's get nuts.
But like still talking about how his parents died when he was 10. Like I get how that kind of thing like it stays with you, but also like I don't think the 70-year-old Batman is the best person to choose. I think either, like, if we're playing with time travel already, go with, like, a really young Batman who has not learned this lesson yet, or choose the dad Batman who's like really dark, because Thomas Wayne's Batman is like a killer. Like he doesn't follow the Batman mantra of don't kill.
So
yeah,
Ben Affleck, basically.
Ben Affleck.
Continue.
Yeah.
Move on. But Zack Snyder had the whole thing about Batman should kill. Not killing is silly, but whatever. Move on.
Oh. Yeah. But yeah, I thought the Keaton stuff was just lazy nostalgia bait.
I absolutely agree. And like, if we compare, sorry, Aiden,
No,
like if we compare good multiverse movies with bad ones, it's like if I think of good multiverse movies, I think of like Across the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, Everything Everywhere, stuff like that. They actually use the concept multiverse as like a creative avenue instead of like an avenue for cameos, nostalgia, and things like that.
Yeah.
It's like there are certain possibilities that we can't really explore in the prime of the main timeline that we can use a multiverse to explore and to actually get really creative pairings of characters, or like moments where characters don't usually interact and put them in the same room together. And I think that's exactly what you're referring to when either we see like a much younger Batman or a really dark Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Thomas Wayne Batman. Like we don't usually see these in like the prime timeline in the main movies, but because it's a multiverse movie, we get to explore these things. I think like these things really get me excited, and it's a real shame that studios think it's the other way around. It's like, oh, people want to see old characters come back, but no.
Yeah, I think the multiverse means nothing in this movie, and I think that like the reason why it's strong in Spider-Verse movies is because, particularly in Across Spider-Verse, for example, that one's talking about narrative and fate in a pretty clever way, and that one's really interesting. Everything Everywhere is talking about like being overwhelmed and like the seemingly crushing weight of the universe and how that interacts with familial bonds. Like that, it's talking about that. It means nothing here. I remember I had seen that clip on Twitter so many times of like Christopher Reeve Superman and the Nicolas Cage Superman, like whatever, and all that shit like coming through. And
God, those were awful scenes, by the way.
It's crazy that there's no reason for it in the movie. It just happens. Like it's just like there's destruction, and it's like, okay, we're gonna take a break and look at these guys for a second.
Yeah,
and that's all it is.
Exactly.
Like there's no reason for it to happen in the movie, and they're not doing anything. They're just like looking with dead CGI zombie expressions of like
even Nicolas Cage, who is still alive and who films for this. How does he look so fake?
Oh, he filmed for this?
Yeah.
The fuck? That's crazy.
Like, what are they doing? What are they, like, they're not reacting to this? They're not, it's so dumb.
Also, what would even be the point of implying that this is a thing? You're gonna continue to bring back the dead people? You're gonna make a solo film for the dead people? Why?
The past isn't written? It's also contradictory. The past isn't written, they're still here? Like, these people in real life that died, you just brought back as CGI zombies. Like, in a very unethical way, I'll say. 100%. Like, this is fucked up. And it runs contrary to the point of, like, appreciate...
That people die.
Like, people die and appreciate them and, like, human life is precious or whatever, which I think is what it's trying to get at. But, like... Oh, my God. It
was not trying to get at that, I think.
No, I think the whole movie is trying to get at that a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and also, like... To make matters worse, the one in black and white, I think it's George Reeves, he killed himself because of Superman. Because he was typecast. Yes, Peter, he was typecast as Superman and couldn't get any acting roles, and he killed himself. And they put him in Superman in this movie to haunt him, to haunt us forever. It is grim. It is grim stuff. To bring it back to Batman just a little bit, though. What was I going to say? Like, so multiverses. If you're gonna do multiverse, it's the same as Doctor Strange too. It's like if you're gonna do multiverses, make the most of that situation. Don't just go to a world that's basically the same. Why would you bring back Michael Keaton as Batman and not go to the Burton Batman universe? The most iconic visual Batman universe. that has ever, like, no Batman universe Gotham has ever looked more distinct than Burton's, and we're just straight up not gonna do that. That's crazy.
Dude, they
Why?
ran out of CGI budget, man. What can I say?
That's the issue, is they would have done it with CGI anyways, versus Burton, who made practical sets. Like, I'm gonna go insane. Also, Batman related stuff, they switched Batman for a third time at the end. It's now
That was
George
silly.
Clooney,
That was
which is just like,
I knew
what are
that
we
was
even
coming.
doing? I know, I knew too.
I knew that was coming because I was like, it can't be Val Kilmer like that, because I'm pretty sure he he either passed or sick. But like I knew, I was like, so it can't be Val Kilmer, so I guess it's not gonna be Christian Bale, like he is not gonna be there. So I guess and it's not gonna be Pattinson. so I was like, I guess it has to be Clooney.
And it's also great that Batman is the only character who is continually switching cast members. Nobody else is affected by this apparent phenomenon. Only.
And I wonder, like, what do they want to do with it? Like,
exactly.
Sure, is he gonna show up again? I'm pretty sure, like, Ezra Miller as Flash is done, right? Like, I don't think they're.
Yeah, I think the idea was that in the scenario where they weren't rebooting, that he would be the Batman going forward.
Okay.
At some point, Keaton was supposed to be the linchpin. He was going to be in the Batgirl movie, for example. But then, like, if you're not going to have a linchpin at all, why would you... Like, that seems like a last-ditch effort to be like, oh, well, we're never going to have an opportunity ever again. Let's just...
How many cameos can we squeeze into one movie?
Yeah. Literally. Like, I do not think it serves any narrative purpose, either in this movie or for future movies.
No, but guys, he's from the other thing. He's from the other movie. I don't know if you guys know that. He's in the other thing.
Also, and this part kills me.
What other thing?
It's from...
Are you serious?
I'm not explaining. Don't explain it. So
wait, Peter, you know that George Clooney was Batman, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
He's the Batman with like the nipples on his suit.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to see it. Why would you even bring him back if you're not gonna see the bat nipple suit? That's stupid. But anyways, also, this movie establishes that the Flash has a relationship with Ben Affleck's Batman.
Yeah.
You would think that going back in time and seeing, I mean, again, a better version of this would have had him be Thomas Wayne and have Bruce Wayne be dead. But sure, let's say it's just a different Bruce Wayne he doesn't recognize. To come back to the present and see his old pal Bruce Wayne and be like, man, I missed you. It's a wonderful life. That would have been a character beat. That would have probably been an emotional character beat I would have bought more than any others in this movie. Which is sad. But like that would have actually worked.
It's also another example of like they just don't pay off something they set up earlier, where they have a line earlier where Ben Affleck's Batman is like Barry's like, well, we can like hang out, we can like get food, and Batman like very sincerely is like, maybe another time, and then he never is shown again in the movie. Also,
I'm pretty sure like this is the last appearance of Ben Affleck, right? As Batman.
I think so.
But he could have been in the same movie later on. Why did he have to be changed for a third time? It's
also, so Barry has knowingly changed the past at the end. He knows that he like put the tomato cans on the top shelf, which there are problems with that.
Why is that okay?
What? No, well, it's not, because like George Clooney, whatever.
Yeah.
But also, he doesn't recognize that it's not his voice. If he had made this change in the past, would he not immediately be on edge? Like, okay, is anything different? Did I fuck it up again? And would he not hear the phone and be like, oh, the voice is different. Fuck, it's a different guy. Also, how was changing the video not his first instinct? Like, I don't understand how that wasn't the first thing he did. Oh, I have another point that I'm jumping, but yeah, whatever. I'll save that for a second.
To answer that last question, change the video first with his mother still would die. The idea is fixing the main problem instead of like...
Right. No, that's true.
Right, the evidence. Another Batman thing, though, is Michael Keaton in this movie, even if he's doing the nostalgia, why is he the Big Lebowski? Why is he being the dude at the beginning? He's like all disheveled. He's retired. Alfred's gone. Alfred's passed. But like, why? I think it's implied that like something happened, but I don't think they even set that up as a real.
Yeah, they did not imply anything.
Like, clearly, what should have happened is something happened that he needs to work over. You know, kind of like The Flash and how that happened to him. How some bad, maybe Catwoman died, I don't know, but like some bad traumatic thing happened where he couldn't save people and he gave up. And it's the Flash who has to teach Batman the lesson. That's what makes the Flash learn the lesson for himself. Again, if it's Thomas Wayne, it's Bruce dying. If it's Batman, it's but like no, he's just retired because he got old.
No,
and Gotham is safe now. Okay.
Yeah, they say in the movie like, no crime in Gotham.
Yeah.
Just no crime.
Wait, guys.
Gotham's fine now.
He killed the Joker. He killed everybody. That's all we know.
I thought the whole plot about like a young guy going back and then sort of like motivating like the old master stereotype. That's been done before, right? Like a lot. Because I swear to God, I've seen that recently.
Every movie nowadays that brings back old actor from old movie to do new movie is that. They just do the same thing. Because old man has been disgruntled over the years and has lost faith. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo.
Oh, yes!
Blade Runner. Another example. Rocky, I think, is another example. Literally any legacy
Creed. Yes, I think I'm thinking about Creed.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. But like literally, they all do the same thing. Some of them significantly better than others.
Yeah.
But like, this isn't new.
Dude, even Spider-Verse is one too. No, in the first one.
Yep.
Jake Johnson's Spider-Man. Yeah.
At least that one isn't actor from old.
That's
that
a new character.
New character.
Yeah.
That one is significantly better.
But the idea of like mentor who's lost his way and has to learn to be a mentor through mentoring learns to be himself again. Like that is like an archetypical kind of story.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, and this is a bit of a pivot, but this is near the beginning, and this is the way that the plot kicks off is very strange to me. So he goes to his house, his old family home, because he's on the phone with his dad in prison, and then he sees like the memory of younger him running away, and he just starts running. But the way this is presented to me, it seems like he does this somewhat frequently. Like he goes and looks at his family house, and he talks to his dad like fairly regularly, right? These are not unique things. So what happened in this scene? Why is this day different that he starts speeding off so fast that he rips through time? Like I could understand like if something particularly like significant had happened that day where he's just like, oh, fuck this, I gotta get away from it, I can't handle this, whatever. But like these things seem like regular things. So why does that happen? And then also there's his immediate reaction upon this is maybe I could fix the past. And then but he doesn't do it immediately. There's a later scene, he's talking to Iris, who's like, well, maybe that's why you're a forensic anthropologist or whatever the fuck he is, because
anthropologist.
Because maybe that's what Bones is. That's why I'm thinking of that. But so maybe you could fix the past, and then he's like, fix the past. I didn't think about that. It's like, yes, you did. That was your first impulse.
Also, you did that in Justice League. You did fix the past already. We've established you can do this.
Yeah.
It's very stupid. I 100% agree. I do think that the just deciding to do Flashpoint comes purely, like, completely out of nowhere. It is truly just a regular Tuesday that he's like, maybe I'll do a Flashpoint, whatever.
Yeah, I'll go for a run.
I could jump on so many different things you talked about, just because, like, Flaw City over here. Let's talk about the mom and what is supposed to be, like, the emotional heart of the movie. So Barry lost his mom from mysterious ghost knife murderer. And this is supposed to be, like, his beating heart, the I wish my mom wasn't dead. It, like, there's a couple things I can pinpoint to, but, like, it truly just does not work at any point for me. I think part of it is just, like, the scenes feel so forced. the writing is not particularly good.
Yeah.
The acting is not particularly good from anybody in that scene.
Yeah.
And it just feels so awkward. Like, it does not feel like a family. It feels like actors doing a scene. And then after her vague death and then vague revival, I just feel like she's not in this movie. And you'd think that if his whole
he goes back
thing
in
was
time to get his mom back and then spends no time with her.
Like, right? Like, you'd think that the whole concept would be, now I get to spend all this free time with mom. And that's just not what happens. He just ignores her the whole time. I can't even think of a single time he goes back. I don't think he does. Because he's caught up on this grand superhero adventure where he's training his more annoying, if that's even possible, younger self. Again, an issue that would have been resolved if he did not have to, like if there wasn't two of them. If he went back and he was the only one, I don't know how that makes any sense. But, like, or just bonks younger self on the head.
Or
it's just like, it's a minute cabinet.
If there wasn't two of them, or if the plot was more directly related to what they were doing instead of it being Man of Steel, like then you can loop the mom in way more easily.
And so then the issue, like, when you bring her back later, I don't know who this woman is. She's been in one scene. I don't have the emotional connection to this character that Barry is supposed to have. So it just effectively does not work because this character, we have not spent time with this character. I don't know who this character is. I don't care. Trying to see if there's anything else. And the other thing is, like, I don't think Flashpoint, the comic, does that either. So I think that's a flaw just inherent from the piece of work. And I'm not sure how you would have her involved in it more, but...
Be creative.
I'll let Peter talk, and then I have one other thing. I just remembered what it was.
I agree. Like, I think for, like, the majority of the movie, like, we don't really see, like, even through flashback scenes and stuff like that, and like, you don't really feel the connection between the characters. And I agree, like, acting wasn't particularly excellent either, but I thought, like, the final confrontation at the grocery store was actually really well done. Like, I think if anything, like, I think the comedy of this movie was terrible, but at least, like, the eventual emotional conclusion in the grocery store was pretty well done. Like, the fact that, you know, he has to go through, like, to undo something that he did himself, and he knows exactly the consequence, while the other party doesn't know who he is nor what's gonna happen to her, is pretty powerful in my opinion. And the dialogue delivery was well done as well. I think, I don't know why, but, like, Andy, I think, is a horror director, right? You said he did It.
He did
Chapter
both
1.
It movies.
Yeah, so, like, I mean, I get it why that he might be lacking on the humor and the comedy department, but at least, like, that emotional scene I thought was very well done.
Well, I would say that the It movies are not super horror, not super successful horror either. But whatever.
Oh.
That's separate. Yeah,
They're just popular. That's it.
I think they're decent.
Sure.
Whatever.
Yeah. I think another issue that I have is I think, okay, here's my hypothesis. Part of this movie thinks that it is about inspiring people to be a hero and, like, choosing to be a hero. The movie does not keep with this idea and does not make it its core idea. It chooses a more cynical thing instead of what is clearly, like, a very optimistic idea of, like, you should choose to be a hero. My evidence for this is that Kara has to be convinced to be a hero. She decides not to for a while. Michael Keaton has to decide to be a hero.
Yeah. Oh my God.
The younger Flash has to kind of, like, learn to be a hero as well, and he has a point where he says, "You are my hero, Barry." And there's a part where Flash has to regain his powers. I think at some point there needs to be a part where Barry doesn't want his powers.
Yes,
I don't think
he's in the dimension with his mom back and doesn't want to stay there at all. Like, there's no urge. Like,
he's just like, I'm good. I'm good. I'll keep the powers too. It's like, no, you should not have your powers because you have to learn. With great power comes great responsibility. And, like, the idea that the powers are kind of like, they're a curse, I guess, and it comes with good and bad, right? So there has to be a part where either because you chose or by happenstance you've lost your powers, so that regaining them is like something you come around on. You have to not want them and not have them before. The issue I have the movie presents is that the Flash does not have powers, and he has to recreate his powers in the Batcave. Why did he not do this a day ago?
Yeah.
If he just wants his powers back, why would he not just do it?
Yeah.
There's no point where he's like, man, I hated having my powers. This is significantly better. It's not a sacrifice he has to make to get his powers back, but they make it like it is. There's a part where he's like, oh, this sucks so bad to have to get my powers back. And Kara, like, literally lifts him into heaven like he's an angel, or like she's an angel and that he's Jesus who has died on the cross. And there's, like, a blinding white light. And I'm like, okay, are we really doing this? First of all, very, very Zack Snyder, heavy-handed religious imagery. We're clearly still.
Well, it's also just it's also just a superhero thing in general. But like, you can do that in a way that's good. Like, I love a good Jesus reference in a superhero movie. I really do. But it has to like mean something. Like Death and Rebirth has to like mean something. It has to be a real thing. I also fell asleep for like 2 minutes at this point in the movie.
It essentially has to be an actual sacrifice, because if it's something you wanted to do anyways, that's not a sacrifice. I'm sorry.
No, and literally, it has to be that he's taking on the sins or he's carrying a burden for everyone and sacrificing himself. It has to be set up in such a way that for humanity, like he's taking on their burden and becoming the Flash. Like that's what it has to be. And it's just, like, there's no reason to think that that's what it is here.
And isn't it like, really silly that how, like, anyone can repeat this? It's not, like, some special thing. It's just chemicals and lightning, right? So
yes, also true. And, like in some versions, and I think even the Flash TV show does this, like, Flash becomes the lightning that struck him. Like, that's an interesting idea, that he was, like, chosen, he was destined to do this, or, like, he grants the power to himself kind of thing. And just like, there needs to be a moment where he is happy without his powers, where he's like, no, Barry, I'm just going to stay with Mom. Like, that's clearly what needs to happen. I'm just going to stay with Mom, and life without powers is a good thing. And instead he's just like gallivanting off with younger Barry and being like, man, you're such a fucking idiot. I wish I had your powers right now. And it seems like the best thing in the world to have those powers. Yeah. But enough about that. Let's talk about the fact that there are 2 Ezra Miller Barry Allens in this movie. Yes, Peter, what do you want?
I have so much to say.
About what?
About what? 2 berries.
Oh, okay, good. It is about what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah.
You could, let's hear you go. 2 berries.
Dude, okay. So when the younger Barry first showed up, I was like, okay, this is gonna be fun. You know, we're gonna have an interesting dynamic. You know, because like initially, all the jokes up until that point were missing, man. Like, oh my goodness, like it was just like you guys said, it was just like there was cringe but funny, but there's also just cringe, but like the movie's in the ladder for like 90% of the time. So I was like, okay, this is good. This is where the funny came in, because like when he first showed up, you know, all cheery with the fucking headphones, long hair. It was like, you know, it was like joyful, you know. It seems like it's gonna be fun. But then, oh my god, it just like I think there's a thin line between like a character being annoying for like a comedic purposes, and the character just being annoying, and I have no idea why, but they were just in the annoying camp the entire movie. I think it might just be because Andy hasn't done comedies in the past, and this might be like, you know, his first time doing comedic movies. But like all the jokes are missed. Like I think I got laughed out loud like twice in the entire movie. In a movie about the Flash, one of the funniest characters in the DC universe supposedly. So nope, it didn't work. And I want to talk about the Reverse Flash stuff as well, but we'll save that for a later point, because I thought that worked. So
I think this is just the characterization that Zack Snyder established, And
like
then,
awkward.
and it works when he's the side character to less annoying people, and he's just chiming in, and you're like, haha,
But when you have
that's
two
an
of them.
annoying thing to say. But he doesn't talk that much. When it's just like pure, unfiltered, a whole movie of that character times 2, like, what were you thinking would happen?
Yeah.
You created the most annoying character alive, and there's 2 of them now, and they're bouncing off each other with their annoying energy. And like, I don't like, Barry Allen is not like a super well defined character. Like you said, the Flash is supposed to be a funny character. I don't think that's true.
Oh, really?
I think that's true
In the
of
show,
Spider-Man.
he's not like a. He's not
Exactly.
really a jokester.
It's true of Spider-Man. It's true of Deadpool. Those are characters. Even Deadpool is more annoying than he is funny sometimes. But like, there are some characters who being funny is actually associated with their character. Barry Allen is not one of them. He's also not the more popular Flash. It's crazy that we have more Barry Allen than Wally West, but that's a side thing. My point being that you could have gone with like just a different characterization. This is a weird route to go to make him so annoying that, like, there was a part where I literally said to my TV screen, "Shut the fuck up! Like, please stop talking." It's like I just could not handle it, and I'll stop. But I have one more thing. I'll say it after.
Yeah. I also was talking to my screen at certain points where I was just like, ugh, like fuck off. I really don't have much to add to this other than just like, it was such a chore. I paused this movie and got up and did something else for like 5 minutes, like multiple times, because I was just like, wow, like I can't watch this right now.
It's crazy. Another thing that is insane to me is why he goes back in the past, and arbitrarily we decide he's gonna end up for most of the movie in Man of Steel era, 10 years prior. You've given yourself less wiggle room than one might like, but have we considered having just a different person play younger Barry? It happens for Batman. Why can we not have a different, less annoying, less criminal person play younger Barry so that I don't have 2 Ezra Millers? You're also just creating a headache in post to have to like digitize someone's face. It's easier. And now we just have a Dear Evan Hansen situation where a 30-year-old is playing an 18-year-old, and he just looks like a full-grown adult.
Yeah.
There's a part where, like...
where the dad's like, you look old.
Yeah, dad says, you look old, and Ezra, like, young Barry says, you look like you're 40, when he has the same face. You look the same. You both look 40. It's so bad.
Yeah. One thing I would say though, Ezra Miller in The Perk of Being a Wildflower was
Different
like a
movie.
I know. Was like a brilliant, like his depiction of like a teenage or like high school student was like good. I don't know what happened. Like, it might be the script. It might just be like, you know, like what happened. He's not like a bad actor. But it's just like, you know. Whatever.
Yeah, I do want to say something that is actually a positive, because a little while ago, Peter, you had said that like all the jokes up until that point have been missing. I generally agree. However, there were actually some parts that I was like, that's funny, and then they kind of ruined it. Like, I kind of like the baby sequence at the beginning. I actually think that when he looks over and he sees like what the threats are like comically exaggerated, like one baby has a bunch of knives about to hit it, and then another one's like about to fall into like a thing of fire. Like, that's funny. Like, I legitimately think that's a funny gag of like, it's an absurd, the threats are so absurdly exaggerated. And then I don't like the way that scene ends is like the woman screaming, and then he's like, you should seek their services. But I actually think it's kind of funny up until that point, and I was like, okay, this scene isn't that bad, and I don't even mind the baby microwave thing. Like, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with I actually think the shot where he is like reaching for the baby and then goes past into the vending machine is kind of good. I actually kind of like because it is a decent fake out where it's like, oh, he's reaching for it and then he just dives right for the vending machine. I kind of like that. I don't mind it. And so this ties into my broader point of there are some moments that are either funny or a decent idea in this movie that they either ruin immediately after with something annoying, or they just don't explore the idea, or they didn't think about the idea well enough, and so it just winds up being dumb.
Yeah. Dude, now that you described it, it really makes that scene sound like the Mario scene where they're trying to fix the pipe and the dog started, and they're trying to lock the dog in.
It's the
Now
worst
that you
thing
remember
possible.
at the very beginning of
It's
the
just
Mario film?
exaggeration. It's exaggeration. They're both scenes that use that.
Yeah.
Worst
Yeah,
thing
but
happening. But I'll say that I do think that like the idea of like Looney Tunes deaths for a bunch of babies, like that is like a funny idea. I think execution is all over the place, just like very strange choices that didn't work for me. CGI babies look terrifying. The CGI generally in this movie is very bad.
Yeah,
and this
I was
speaks to,
more
like,
just being like accepting. Okay, it's gonna look like this the whole time. I'm gonna try to
Yeah,
like just think about like
Yeah.
what's going on
Again,
here. Yeah.
just like stop crunching your VFX artists. Give them time to make babies that don't look like goblins. He's saving goblins that are falling from the sky. Give you a second, Peter. I'll also say that the scene is ruined for me partially by the food thing. I think if you just eliminate the food thing, if you just take it out if we don't have to keep talking about the food thing, it becomes like a little less goofy.
Well, no, I like the food thing because it puts a limit on what should be such a powerful character that it's not even like. How could he ever have a problem?
It's a very interesting perspective.
They don't do it again. They don't bring it up again in the movie, and that's what the problem is.
Exactly, it's the consistency.
It's good that he has a limit, I think.
I think there are other limits you can do with the Flash. They just choose not to explore them as limits because the issue is that he is very early in his career, yet he seemingly has all of his powers figured out. And we just never got to see him struggle. So, like, he is running up a building and dancing between falling objects. Like, that is something that someone whose power is run fast should not just be able to do. They have to come up with ways, well, how does he run fast to save people falling? And I think that could have been a struggle. Like, imagine if he has to run up a bunch of stairs, for example, and then he's, like, I don't know, just for an example. I also think there's a bit of, the reason why I laughed during that scene is at the end, where he's looking at the baby, and he's smiling, and he gives, like, the most psychotic smile. Where he's like, ee, like, yeah, I did it, ee. Terrifying.
I think that's just his smile, genuinely.
Sure, their smile. Well,
yeah. Well, the character is him.
It's hard to.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
and I thought, just one more comment about that scene.
Sure.
Like, I just thought like that's such an exaggerated like it's a bunch of criminals robbing a lab, right, at the
they're
basement
robbing
level.
a hospital. So funny.
And then the whole hospital collapsed. Like, what is going on, man? Like,
yeah. I think as an idea, I'll just say this: as an idea, babies falling from the sky, Flash has to save them. That's not a bad idea.
No, that's not a
the
bad
execution
idea.
is crazy, and choices like what causes babies to fall out of sky, like that is not the most logical reason why babies falling from the sky. I think you could have done so many other things.
The scenario presented to the Flash is actually very interesting because like when you see like a very dangerous or like unlikely scenarios happen, you're like picturing, okay, how is the hero gonna solve it? And like during that scene, I was just thinking, how is he gonna solve it? There are literally so many babies. It's not like Flash can, a dash in midair or something. How is he gonna make sure these babies land safely? It's a very interesting scenario, but there are just so many other things going wrong in that scene that the scene sort of got ruined for me. So,
I will say that I actually disagree with like the idea of like I don't think the setup's wrong. I actually think it's a good idea that it's like it is so exaggerated. Like the building is collapsing. Like the building is collapsing and they all flew out the window and it's such a like absurd setup. I wish that the entire movie was like that. I wish that the entire movie was this absurd degree of like using this absurdist comedy, but it drops it after that. Like I don't mind that the ground is crumbling. I think it's funny that it's just like, it's at once like, oh, it's a typical superhero thing. Like, we've seen this, a building's falling and people are coming out the window. But I like that it's like, it's a really silly like version of it, and I think that that's fun. I hate the Batman chase. That's so pointless. I hate that we're cutting.
No, that's kind of what we're talking about. Is like this. The reason why the babies are falling out the window is weird. Why does it involve Batman? Why is it Falcone's kid instead of like a recognizable villain? Why are they stealing from a lab? Why are they stealing COVID from a lab? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Why are they stealing,
I would just cut that. Yeah.
Virus from a lab. Like, all of these are like extraneous details, and I think there are simpler, more Flash-centric options that they could have explored.
I think you literally don't have to explain it too. You could literally just say the building is crumbling.
Babies falling.
That is better than. Okay, I didn't know that's what you meant. I thought you meant like the mechanism was wrong, and I was like, oh.
Or even like, consider this. Like, what if there was, God forbid, a Flash villain who said, "Flash, I'm gonna kill you or these babies. Come and get me." And then he throws babies off a roof. That is actually like a thing of supervillain does in comic books. They're crazy, and it adds to the Looney Tunes-ness of it. I don't think like they tried to make it too real. Again, something that sometimes happens. But I want to talk about something different. Iris West is in this movie for some reason, barely. Yeah. As like the romantic lead that is just like really just shoehorned in there. Yeah. Glad that like they didn't progress it too far in a movie that she wasn't really in. That they kind of like said it as like he's working on that side of himself. That's fine. But
yeah, like he can't move on. The idea is like he can't move on, and that's why he can't have a girlfriend or whatever.
Yeah.
And so
like that's not a bad idea. And like we'll develop this later in movies that don't exist anymore. But like. The idea that Iris West is attracted to this just like obnoxious, rude asshole is crazy to me.
It's crazy, right?
He does nothing to like make her like that. Nothing that would make him appealing to her. He is not even like actively pursuing her and not like pursuing in a bad connotation.
I know.
He is not asking her out. If
he's not courting her, no.
No, if he was like, if he was the one trying and she was like, sure, I'll give it a try, that is something like I could buy. But she has decided that there is something attractive about this crazy man that she is willing to not only like try it once, but when that goes so poorly that he like leaves, he just like walks out the door, she's willing to try again. And, like, again, is, like, the only one doing the courting. Wild stuff. No chemistry. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yo, like, empty shell of a character. Like, seriously. Like, I think her entire character description can just be, I am hot for Barry Allen. Like, seriously. Like, that's what she did for the entirety of the movie. You know? I'm not sure if, like, the Justice League stuff is canon or not, but, like technically they did meet very briefly in Justice League. What?
They mentioned that. It is so canon that they refer to it in this movie.
Oh, they did? Okay, never mind. But like when they first met outside the courtroom, she was like, "Oh, I haven't seen you since university. How are you doing?" Blah blah blah. Which is like normal stuff. And then it progressed into like she's apologizing, which is fine. And at the very end, it's like, "Yo, let's go on a date." Like what? Yeah. Like. What is happening? Seriously. Like, I think that's literally her entire role in the movie was just like ask Barry out. Like, seriously. Like, first time, second time, third time. Like, oh my goodness. Does not exist as a character on her own. Terrible writing. Like, 100%. What is going on?
100%. I agree. That's definitely one of the only functions she has is just like to be that thing, to be like an offer for Barry that like, oh, if he had moved on, he could do this, but because he's not, he can't. Like, the offer's right there. And so, like, that's why, from a certain script perspective, it makes sense that she is, like, clearly interested in him, but just do it better. And so, like, but then the other function is just, like, reminding us of stuff. Like there's a hilarious moment where they're having a normal conversation and then she just out of nowhere is like, yeah, so you're like fucking dad might be in prison for life after tomorrow, right? Like she like hard pivots and is like, yeah, so your dad's, so like what about your dad's court date? Like, cause you know how he like fucking killed your mom, and that's what I think. Like it's just like out of nowhere, like what?
And by the way, some of the most awkward conversations too, by the way. Like,
and it truly feels the entire time that she is trying to get a story out of him. That she is trying to be like a journalist and she's just using him. Which would
that could be interesting.
Could be interesting, but also in this movie, I think would be a little psychotic to be like the person who is supposed, like in the comics, if we're talking about fate and stuff, like is his love interest character. It's his Mary Jane. To have her like manipulate him like that would kind of make her an asshole. It would absolutely make her an asshole, but you know,
to play her as like a morally gray character who simultaneously cares about him, but is also such a career person that like. She is like trying to get some information. Like there's something there,
yeah. Speaking of girls, there's that line. This is so small, but there's that line in the third act where, out of nowhere, Barry Allen is like, "I'm a Barbie girl" or something. Like he just
I actually laughed at that. I thought it was funny.
Yeah,
apparently,
I had to erase that from my mind. Yeah.
Apparently, it was supposed to cue off a Barbie girl Aqua, like it starts playing in the action scene. Two problems. One, they took out the song. So apropos, so it just like it happens and then it's just like, wait, did he just say that and why? I guess because of Barbie, but like in some of the earlier screenings for fans, they saw that. They saw the Barbie version and it's just gone. Okay. Two, even with the song, it
doesn't make sense.
Apropos of nothing. He's just like, I'm a Barbie girl. What? Why would you say that? Why?
Like he doesn't know that the non-diegetic song is about to play. Like
no. And like he doesn't like Barbies. There's no Barbie joke earlier in the movie. Yeah. There's not like a coy reference at like the fact that Barbie is different in this universe, that it's not Barbie. That was the Michael J. Fox joke instead. That's a real thing.
Yeah,
Random.
Exactly.
Completely
if they did
random.
like you know how Guardians does like we're Kevin Bacon now. If they just did that joke, like essentially the same thing, and just were like, oh, we're I don't know whoever the fuck, who they were saying plays Marty McFly in this world. I don't remember.
Yeah, like
but
just.
Just bring that joke. Have one of them say like, current Barry say like, we're gonna be like that actor, and then younger Barry says we're gonna be like Michael J. Fox or whatever, and then it's like, oh, they've come to an agreement or whatever. It's still dumb, but like I don't know. It's
and
like,
then play
it
like
makes sense.
Like the Chuck Berry song they do in Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Like tie it into something you've already done.
Or do like a cover of that because it's like a different version of it. That might be fun.
Yes, exactly. Like just something. I think we can wrap this up with before like direction I'll talk about. I think Andy Muschietti is part of the reason this movie is so insane. I think this movie was through development hell, and there was probably a lot of voices from the executive side, but I also think a better director could have done something better with this insane mess of a movie. I think the pieces that he was given, he also just did poorly. And a lot of it's easy to say as a director, like the visual stuff is bad, and it is. The wide angle fight scenes is such a strange choice.
That could be good if executed better.
The Batman action scene in the beginning with Ben Affleck is just like nothing. It is completely without tension. I could not care. It's literally like a Coco Melon, flashing images that mean nothing. It is nothing. What else? The video game shot in the end. He is making insane choices on a movie that already was it was inevitably going to be bad.
What's the
he made it worse shot? Is what I'm suggesting.
The video game shot is the one that looks like it's the beginning of like like the end of a cutscene, like when Supergirl's in the middle and the two Flashes are on the side, and they all run towards the camera, and then it looks like start playing now. It's time to start playing.
It's really it's the arc from their front where you're looking at them, which is how you view a cutscene, to behind them, which is how you play a video game. You're in third person. So it's really like, how did you not see that coming? Is that it's gonna look like, now start playing. Yeah. I
wonder if there's some level of like he wanted it to, which is a bad decision, I think. But like, so what I'll say about the direction, I think it is like really strange and all over the place. But I think there are hints of like, oh, this was supposed to be like really absurd, and for whatever reason it didn't commit to that. And I think, again, that would have been really fun if it was just this super absurd movie. Like, the moment I actually think this is kind of like pretty funny, when Barry tries to phase through the wall after he's lost his powers, and then he's like does the run, and he does his insane run but in normal run, and I actually like the camera they use, because they use this kind of like tracking shot that's following him in a circle, and then they cut to this like high angle, and it's like, okay, that was a funny way to cover that, because it's pointing out how absurd he looks, and I actually really like that. But like the movie isn't that. Like it's just weird choices all around.
I think tonally a big issue. Like maybe he's the one advocating for the goofiness, but it's conflicting with the general tone of the universe set up by Zack Snyder, who is easily, like Peter was talking about how he's got like a very clear visual style. Like that has just permeated the entire DCU because he started it. It looks like a Zack Snyder movie. And it's like, I don't like his visual style, and it is every single movie looks like this, more or less. And I think it's so funny then that we are flashing back to a Zack Snyder movie so that the goofiness is even more absurd. Like it just does not work in an ultra serious universe. And then now you're also doing Michael Keaton, which is a different tone, which is also kind of on the goofier side. But like,
and they could have leaned into that and made it fun, but like, that's what I mean. Like they could have done that. I also want to say on directing, arguably the primary role of the director, directing actors, bad. No
also
chemistry
bad.
Between any characters, and
none.
Like seemingly, like I think in fairness, the script is so bad in some parts that it would be legitimately hard to motivate some of these lines. Like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Particularly Iris's character, I feel very bad for that actress because, like,
for real,
like none of the lines have anything to them. So I don't know. I have some sympathy for both Andy and that actor because, like,
Kiersey,
that would be hard. I don't know how
you can't pronounce.
Yeah.
It's Kiersey Clemens. Yeah, that's fine.
Kiersey. No, that was a different actor I can pronounce. But yeah, I think that like character direction is bad in this movie, and that's the worst.
Maybe that's why I like Supergirl in this movie so much, because she has no lines. She's just being a badass.
No, I also like, people said that Supergirl was good in this. Maybe the actor was, but it's hard to be like an actor was good in a movie that was directed and written.
Well, I mean, I just thought like she was effortlessly cool in the entire movie.
She was cool. I think she was cool.
Yeah, I think it's honestly like, I would take the stance of like, man, it sucks to be her, because this should have been like a big thing for her. She could have continued to be Supergirl. This is like her biggest role to date. I don't know if it's her first.
According to IMDb, she's still attached to be Supergirl. I might be wrong.
Oh, maybe she is. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I would not mind that at all. I thought.
Yeah,
no,
I think she's a great Supergirl. Yeah.
It's just she was just like completely underserved and given nothing to work with.
Absolutely.
A director who clearly did not know what he was doing. But like, no, I think it's very clear from fellow directors that the direction is bad, which is, again, I said this earlier, but insane that people watched this movie and said that guy needs to direct Batman.
Dude,
I have 3 examples of Batman in this movie directed poorly. Why would you take that as evidence for why he should? That's like completely incongruous. I don't get it.
You know what else is crazy? Stephen King, legendary author, right? Tom Cruise, legendary action film star, producer.
Oh yeah,
They all said, and James Gunn, well, he's like attached to this project, so you know
they were paid.
These 2 people Best movie ever. Excuse me. Oh my
lying,
god.
They are lying through their teeth. There's no way. There is not a single chance Tom Cruise watched this movie and said, "This is gonna save cinema." Somebody paid him off to do that. Somebody made a deal
How
to
much?
do that.
How much?
I don't
Yo,
know.
that's
Someone made a deal with Xenu for that one for sure.
Literally, someone like they just gave him a sacrificial lamb. Like
Yeah.
that is. There's not a single way those people actually believe. I don't even think James Gunn watched this movie and said it was good. That's his job. That's the kind of thing we're dealing with here. Let's kind of work towards wrapping up. I just want to say, relating to Thor: Love and Thunder, there was a floating CGI head in this movie.
Oh yeah.
We both have it. Crazy that they did that. This movie ends with a post-credit scene for some reason where Aquaman is there.
That I didn't
Like
understand.
that credit scene did not set up anything, right? It was just a goofy scene.
Like completely random. He's not.
I was literally like, is the point that is there a multiverse thing going on? Like he's
Nope,
like he's
no
messed up
multiverse.
Aquaman or a bit, or like I didn't get to see it.
He
Like,
messed up Aquaman. No, like,
yeah.
like, I thought almost what would have made more sense is if Aquaman played a bigger role in the Flashpoint universe if he had died, or if he was actually present, if he was played by a different person and just seen from afar. Any of these things, so that Flash can be like, man, it was weird being in another universe where you were blank. And Aquaman said, I was blank? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Nope, didn't do that.
I thought
he
like
just
the whole
lies
thing
down
is
in a puddle.
them trying to say like the Aquaman is not Aquaman anymore, but then he's like, oh, it's literally Atlantean treasure. I was like, okay, so he is Aquaman.
Yeah, I actually
heard-
thought that too. I thought it was trying to say he wasn't Aquaman as well.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, weird. No,
I thought
because I thought that's
just a
what
guy,
the gag
just a
was.
dude.
Is that he falls in a puddle, he falls in water, and he
Yeah.
like, I don't know, you do something
Drowns.
with he
I
drowns.
thought I
don't know.
heard that he drowns in a puddle, and I thought he actually was going to drown in a puddle. And I was like, is this the part where he drowns in the puddle at the end of the movie? Also, this and the Batman scene are filmed on the same studio backlot. Very obvious, and other parts of the movie, very obviously studio backlots where just like vacant, empty no
streets,
one around,
no one is there.
just like devoid of any atmosphere, just like it reminded me of Obi-Wan, the planets where it's just like this was a set.
This
I don't
was
know
a
if it was a
6
COVID
by
thing.
this was a 6x6 volume in Obi-Wan.
Yeah. But like this one, like I almost swear, like I could have been there. I toured the Warner Brothers backlot. I probably walked where they were, and it was so obvious.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it was COVID, but also I have a good feeling that was reshoots. It screams reshoots that you have these big name characters and stupid small character scenes where they're filmed in the same spot, like 10 meters from each other. Literally the same alley as that same scene.
Yeah.
That screams reshoots. And this movie had 2, if not 3. Aquaman has a lot, apparently. Aquaman 2. Which is coming, which is next. I guess
Awesome. Excited.
guess-
No, it's Blue
That's what-
Beetles first. Blue Beetle.
Oh, that's true. Blue Beetle is first, and then Aquaman 2, the last, hopefully, of the DCEU. And that's what this post-credit scene is setting up. We're going to start the movie, and he's going to still be lying in that puddle. We have to find out, how did he start in this puddle? What else can we say? Cultural impact. This movie has none. We've talked to several people. Like, I've talked to a lot of people.
Yeah.
We've talked to some of the same people. I'm sure you people have talked to people. Everyone is like, there's a Flash movie? The primary reaction is great. It's so funny to me. Just like complete unawareness.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Peter?
I want to talk about how they just absolutely fumbled when it comes to Reverse Flash. At least,
now we can get to it. Sure.
Yeah. I want to talk about that. I think genuinely there was a good storyline in this movie, but they just absolutely did not use it. Which is the Reverse Flash, because I thought it was like very well set up. You know, like we already had the intrigue factor starting Act 1 where he got pushed out the portal by like a mysterious figure in purple. And then so we're like, okay, who is he? You know, I want to learn more. And then the way they resolve and like set up they explain the Reverse Flash's backstory is also very interesting, where he's literally created because he believes that he could save people by doing things over and over again, or like and still live in a world where his mom is still alive. Like that's genuinely a compelling plot, that Barry literally has to go against his own, I guess, love for his family in order to save the world. It's a very, very good plot that they just decide to not explore. And like the few scenes where the Reverse Flash win the movie were some of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, where like his appearance and then eventual resolution where young Barry chooses to sacrifice himself because he knows he turns into Reverse Flash if he keeps going. So
You keep using the word Reverse Flash, but I don't think that means what you think it means. That was not Reverse Flash.
Oh, that's not Reverse Flash? Okay,
That's
well,
not
like, I
Reverse.
just thought, like, that character as a villain was, like,
Sure.
it could be much more interesting than just, like, I mean, was there even an obvious villain in this movie? I mean, I guess Zod, but Zod's not really, like, you know?
It's
Like,
yeah.
there was no villain in this movie.
No. Zod is very clearly the villain in this movie, I would say. I would say that there's an added wrinkle that a secondary antagonist is Flash himself, future Flash, or
Yeah.
if we're using the Flash show terminology, Savitar, which I would say is basically what he is. He's more Savitar than he is. Because Reverse
Okay.
Flash is a different character. It's not Barry.
Okay.
The whole idea of Reverse Flash is that he hates the Flash. That's his thing. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that they didn't do that they didn't do Reverse Flash as he is in the comics. I think that would have been too much. And I think Reverse Flash as a character, if he were ever to be in a movie, is best suited as a sequel or a third movie, where the idea of like the Flash having impacts that he could not foresee just because he is a well-known hero doesn't really work on your first movie.
That's fair, yeah.
What I will say is we should also talk more about what we would have done in this movie. That's the last point I have. My suggestion. I think that what the movie should have suggested, instead of like focusing on the point that some things cannot be changed, fate is inevitable, I think what the message should have been is that you have to choose to be a hero despite your past, despite the deaths and the failures, and sometimes it's going to be very hard, but like that's what a hero does. They save people. I think that should have been like the thing. And they
Like,
kind of do it.
Like, don't let your past define you type message?
Like the thing that they said, yeah. And so like instead of like they focus so hard on this idea of like you can't solve everything, but I think that what's great about that line too is that you could have used that and have that be like turn that into a negative thing. Like sometimes people say the wrong thing. Like what if his mom saying you can't solve everything was like a low point for him, being like, man, you can't solve everything, I guess I'll give up. And then at a later point he can be, maybe I can, maybe she was wrong. And instead of just being like defeated, there's a very great sense of defeat in this movie that like you just have to give up and try and like just not do what you did. And it makes the whole like saving Metropolis thing, or it's not Metropolis, but saving that world is just like, it becomes impossible. And I think defying the impossible is what superheroes do. And so creating a superhero movie where they're saying, no, the impossible is real and you just need to give up, like that is so disheartening. So my suggestion is that, kind of going with the idea that the Flash doesn't want to be the Flash anymore, at some point he has to learn to be a hero. Kara, Batman, or whoever, young Flash, they all have to learn how to be heroes. And I think the key emotional heart of this movie is not so much the mom thing, it's a little bit, but it's that kid in Metropolis he saves. He needs to go back to Metropolis and save that kid again. And I think part of the like going backwards in time and trying things over and over and over again could have revolved around that kid instead. Choosing not
way better,
either
yeah.
either like I haven't thought too much about it, but like centering it around trying to save that dad and being like so torn up about like, oh, I couldn't save the kid's dad, and just accepting that like, no, you need to focus on stopping the bad guys or whatever. And so like I'm just really pissed that they said it was impossible to save that world, and I think that's stupid. And I think you could have done a really nice thing where the Flash is that kid. And I think he should have also, at the end of the movie,
Oh my god, like saving his past self.
Maybe visited that kid and been like, hey, how are you, kid? Like something like heroic.
Oh,
for
I see.
example.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Just some ideas I had.
Yeah, I will say I don't mind the idea of you have to let go a little bit and not every problem has a solution. I don't mind that. That doesn't have to be a depressing thing. That can actually be a really heroic and really hopeful message as well. If the idea is that I know that I'm not necessarily going to win every time, and it's not really about that, but in spite of that, in spite of the fact that not every problem has a solution, I'm going to try my best anyway, because that's what being a hero is about, and that's the point. I don't mind that, and I actually think that it's not executed well, but in a different movie, that's actually a refreshing idea, that like he in fact cannot carry the entire weight of the world on his shoulders, and no one can do that. And like there's a certain amount of, a better movie could subvert ideas of heroes as this Jesus-like figure and instead do it. I actually think The Last Jedi is an example of a movie that kind of does this, where it's like that you don't need to do that to be a hero. You just like try and save the people you can and put one foot in front of the other. Like there's a potentially very hopeful message within that, and I don't know, and I think again The Last Jedi is a very hopeful movie. But I had another point, but I forget what it is. But I agree with you that revolving it around the kid thing would have been a much more interesting time loop.
But I agree with you though, Aiden. I think the whole concept of heroes, that heroes can't do everything and they must choose their battles, is actually a very important lesson for a lot of heroes to learn. I think that's sort of like one of the things they did in Far From Home as well, where it's like, you literally, like, there are sometimes the sacrifice has to come from your part. Like, you can't be the one that's like saving the world, also make sure that everyone still remembers you, and etc. And I think like Spider-Verse is actually sort of like subverting expectation, in the sense that Miles Morales is saying that, hey, not only can I do all these things that other Spider-Mans can do, but also I'm gonna make sure that my family is safe. And that's sort of like almost a unique take, I would say, to make sure that to sort of like actually literally saving everybody.
Yeah, and I think I think what we've decided is like, you can use that phrase, you can't solve everything, but like you do kind of have to subvert it. Otherwise it is I
don't think you have to subvert that phrase. I think it's a very defeatist attitude in this movie, and that doesn't have to be a defeatist. That's not an inherently defeatist phrase.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. Is like you have to you're subverting what seems like a defeatist thing into not defeatist.
Sure.
I can see the problem being that like if he does save everything, if he saves the city, why would he go back and like stop or why would he let the murder happen again? And then the world would be gone anyways. Like it would be that's kind of a tough thing, is like you have to imply that this world could not be the one he left behind. I think there's part of it is just like, that's a trap you've set yourself up for. If there was a multiverse situation where he could hop back and that world still lives, maybe that's a scenario. But this is kind of going against what I'm saying, but like the reason why the movie does what it does is there has to be a reason for him to go back in time again, is that this world cannot be the one he left behind.
He has to learn the lesson that he was wrong to mess things up in the first place. Yeah.
So, and I think the battle he can learn in the battle that what he did was wrong, using that kid, for example. I do just think that you'd have to figure out a different way for him to go back, but leave that world intact. I'm not sure how they would do that, but you can figure that out. I also think like other ways you can subvert the trope is you can't solve everything, but we can. Like kind of cheesy, but like
Sure.
he's got a team now, and actually like working as a team would be a good idea. Crazy for a superhero movie to suggest such a thing, I know, but or alternatively, another classic superhero idea is like maybe I can't solve everything, but I'm gonna try my darndest, and like into infinity. Look at Doctor Strange, the time loop thing with Dormammu. Easily could have done that with the Flash. Just like I will not give up. I'll keep going back in time and trying until I find a solution. And I think both of these are just more hopeful options.
Yeah, but I do think that like I don't think the movie's inaccurate to say that what the Flash is doing at the end is destructive. Like
Same.
this idea of
I
like
agree.
No,
retreading.
that's true.
I think in a bet again, the situation is bad because I also don't buy that they can't fix the problem. I don't buy that in this movie, and so that's a big problem for me. But in a better movie that sets it up better, I think that that's a decent point. Again, like the idea that like they do have to like just put one foot in front of the other, try their best, but they can't cheat like the laws of the universe. Like that's the way things are. You know what I mean? Like accepting that and still marching forth as a hero anyways is I think a hopeful message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the
agree.
difference is you have to accept the past and kind of move forward, but also in a way that is like move forward that isn't defeatist. And I think that's what the movie does accidentally. It says we can't change the past, and also the future is fucked too. Like that's what it feels like for the Flashpoint universe. This universe can't go on, and it's like it's kind of like an implied thing. I don't think they meant to do that, but that's just kind of what happens.
I didn't get that vibe though, to be honest. Like I see your points, but when I was watching, I didn't get that vibe.
So the universe is gonna blow up. Last thing I'll say is I think also if they had developed her more, I would have liked for Flash to like look for Kara. Like it feels like that's kind of like he knows where Batman is and he knows where everybody else he met in Flashpoint is, but like he met Kara, and if there had been more chemistry between them, obviously this would have mattered more to me. But I think just as like even as a written character, would you not be curious to like look for the quote unquote friend you met who probably exists in this universe?
Dude, that's Spider-Verse all over again.
Well, it's a good movie. Ugh.
I need to find Gwen. Where's Gwen?
Well, he doesn't look for Gwen in his own universe, but
No.
But yeah. No.
No, I agree that would be interesting, but I agree that would be interesting. I just have a separate thing as well. So for something that I would have liked to see them explore, and again, this is like a much smarter movie would have to do this. Like I know that like some people, if I say this, I know I might get the response of like, well, what were you expecting from the Flash? Well, it's like it can be good, but whatever. Like, so a human being is like quote unquote meant to perceive time in a certain way, and arguably time is a very important factor to humans because what a human is not static. It's something that's constantly changing, and it's affected and shaped by the flow of time. So getting a character who doesn't have to obey by that and can exist in a different type of space and time, and you can tie in like religious themes of like, does he even start seeing himself as a human being anymore? And this can tie into like ideas of like, you can't change the past, that's the way things are. Oh well, they don't have to be for me. Like you can start bringing in a lot of interesting ideas, I think, if you really dig into how that like affects his character, other than like he's just a fast guy. I don't know if a movie needs to do this. That's just something I've never seen, and I think that would be a really interesting idea. It could also tie into like the Savitar Reverse Flash guy as well. Like maybe like he's like gone to that point, or there's some sort of ideology there. I just feel like it's another. In some ways, it's also like an obvious route to take, that it's like he's playing God and he has to learn not to do that, and so maybe you don't do that exactly, but you do it in a more interesting way. I just think that there's an interesting idea in there, and it's a stone unturned.
Like the movie itself is just so vanilla. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of us are having superhero fatigue right now. It's like initially it's like cool, you know, it's like a mix between CGI becoming more and more mature, so like seeing these big epic effects on screen versus like, you know, superhero being a very much unexplored genre until like more recently. Well, actually that's not true because we have Batman movies. I guess like superheroes being more mainstream.
It's more concentrated.
Yeah.
We've had superhero movies for 2 decades. Like since
and I think
even
like
before
more recently, like the novelty is just completely gone. So when the movie is not good, like you just can easily spot it. And I think like I mean it's probably has to do with us, you know, sort of growing up as well, sort of like analyzing movie more critically instead of just that was a fun movie, you know. But I'm so sick of like vanilla and safe superhero movies.
I'm exhausted.
I'm very glad that I only watched this movie through like torrent. Like I didn't spend any money on this. And, like I wouldn't have had it any other way. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I was gonna say. Oh, another idea I had for a Flash thing. I think what could have been interesting, if you're gonna do Flashpoint, what if they had done like a movie that had 2 timelines, like a Nolan Flash movie. This is a Nolan Flash movie.
Yeah.
It just
they cut
like,
black and white color cut.
Yeah.
Literally though, like 2 timelines of like origin story Flash, so pre his first role, and then post his most recent role, and you're cutting between them, so you get some of the like learning to be the Flash bits, and then at some point they converge, and it's like whoa, you did a flashback movie, but then you actually go into the flashback, and then what happens then? I don't know.
No, that could be super interesting.
Dude, that is literally Man of Steel. Like, Man of Steel, at least like in the first 2 acts, we're just intercutting between present and the past.
Okay, but this movie could do that in a really interesting way because the wall between those things is permeable. They can.
Oh, that is true.
Forth.
That is a good point.
That's why that's
like
an interesting idea. Yeah.
Because instead of them actually meeting in just like regular time, the Flash has actually left his timeline and entered the previous one.
I like that actually. That's cool.
Yeah, I should have written a Flash movie. But
Memento, but Flash.
Sort of, yeah.
If we are
Memento but Flash would have been a very fun movie. I think
that would
like
fun.
That's kind of what Aiden was getting at, like playing with ideas. Nolan should have done a Flash movie.
Pretty cool, actually. Yeah. So if we're done, I wanted to ask the question: do we think this is better or worse than Thor: Love and Thunder? I know you had kind of answered this earlier, Alex, but I'll still open the question up.
I
think it's better.
I think I'll say my thing again. By spades, I think Thor: Love and Thunder is better. This might sound crazy, but like
sure.
How about this? I think Thor: Love and Thunder, as a movie, is like nonsense. It is completely like does not make sense. None of the things tie together. It just does not function as a regular movie. As an experience, significantly better. I would much, much, much rather watch Thor: Love and Thunder, which has like crazy performances, ridiculous improv. Like, I think I could watch that movie.
Dude, are you complimenting Love and Thunder right now? God damn.
I don't think it's a good movie. I don't think it's a good movie for the MCU. I don't think it's a good movie for the Thor franchise. I think as a standalone movie, it is not good. But I would much rather watch that crazy movie than this safe and sad, depressing movie.
Dude, I think that's a major cap on your part. That's a major cap.
Thor was not as annoying as this. There is like no competition in my mind.
The goats by themselves are more annoying than anything in the Flash. I do believe that, and they're not there as frequently.
But
there's
true. Less of them.
There is less of them, but they are far more annoying than anything in Flash, I think.
This is what I would say though. Thor was painful to watch. This one, at least like the 3rd act got some emotional reaction out of me. And Thor had nothing. I did not feel anything after watching Thor. My heart is cold, fucking void.
Yeah.
Like,
So-
but this movie, at least like I felt for Barry at the end.
Yeah, so I will say that like I disagree that the 3rd act of this movie is good. I don't like the 3rd act. I also, however, do disagree that I don't even think I would say Thor: Love and Thunder is very by the books vanilla too. I actually don't think it's like. I think that like one of the reasons that movie sucks so bad is because it's such a bare bones, like shitty superhero script that they try to inject really shitty humor into, and I don't think it's like I actually don't think it's that crazy. I think this movie is wackier. I think like and if for that reason alone, I think this movie is somehow better filmed. I think The Flash looks better than Thor: Love and Thunder. I genuinely believe that. And like, and also I just
Peter just flipped me off.
Yeah, bro. I think it's so cap. You think Love and Thunder
This
is
is
better
getting
than
really
this.
personal, and I'm not liking the direction.
Bro, I think, dude, as a film student, you think Thor: Love and Thunder is better than this movie?
no,
It's shocking.
in fairness to Alex, I get what you're saying. Really, I truly do. I'm not like I understand where you're coming from, but for me, like the script functions just a bit better in The Flash, and it's just like I think looking at Thor: Love and Thunder is a nightmare. Like I think that
Dude, listen to this man.
No, but I agree with you. The Flash is a better movie. It's constructed
Sure.
better. It's a bad movie, but
Yeah.
it is better than like the hot mess that is Thor: Love and Thunder. But again, reiterating what I said earlier, I would rather watch a hot, crazy mess and be like, man, this is so stupid, and kind of like laugh at the stupidity. It's not funny. They're trying to be funny, and it's bad, and that is funny. The comedy isn't funny, but the badness of the comedy is funny. Whereas this, watching The Flash, soul-sucking. Just like devoid. The comedy is not funny, and it's not funny in a bad way. It's like I felt lesser and weaker from watching The Flash. So bad.
Dude, just think about me. I was watching this and Man of Steel back to back last night. Just think about that.
Man of Steel is way better though. Man of
Oh
Steel
yeah,
is
it was
so
better.
much better.
It was
than
better.
everything
It was
about
better.
it, yeah.
Like I think one thing I'll say about Man of Steel though, the action significantly better. But honestly, I think as like an emotional story. Wild take, guys. Flash, genuinely better than Man of Steel.
Okay, I don't agree with that, but I don't think the
Yo,
emotional story
I'm telling you, the third act. I love the third act. Okay.
I don't think the emotional story is good in Man of Steel though. I think there's a hilarious moment in that movie when Pa Kent dies, and he's just like,
yeah, he's like,
don't save me.
don't.
I was like, why is he the one that goes back instead of Clark? Why does
Right?
he go back to
Oh my
Clark?
god.
See, this
It's
is
like
the
it's
thing.
the dumbest moment.
It's literally the same thing as Flash. Just like, let me die. And, like, pessimistic attitude towards it. Man, I fucking hate these movies. We have a question we ask all the time.
Yes, we do.
No.
All
So
day, every day.
No.
we do have a question.
Just gonna
we asked this-
answer it. No.
Yeah.
Let
So
him ask the question.
this movie is called Predator versus Movies. We've
This
done the
movie is called Predator.
This
versus-
movie, this podcast is called this podcast is called Predator versus Movies. We've done the movie part. Now it's time to get into the Predator. We asked the question: would this movie be better if the Predator from the movie Predator was in it?
Absolutely. Let him
Sure.
headshot Barry in the first 5 minutes. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Dead. Just.
This is a
Barry's
full circle
corpse.
moment because that is essentially our same answer as Thor: Love and Thunder, where it's just like
Yes.
it would just be better if something more interesting was in this movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like if we do this for our anniversary every year, which would be crazy, but like
Yeah.
Just
I think-
just
I
a
think
bad
we'll come across
superhero
the
film
same.
every year.
we'll
Yeah.
run out. I hope we'll run out. But
Yeah.
yeah. Next week,
Yeah.
I have no idea what we're doing. I haven't looked at the schedule. Oh,
I'm
That's also
away
the
next
schedule
week.
though.
That's technically 2 or 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
away.
I'm
until
getting lost. So
September.
that's that one. What's this one? Oh, there we go. Yeah. Okay. Well, we could do. Blue Beetle.
Oh, okay.
That is what's coming out. We could watch the movie that is after this movie. We're doing
Is that
this in
movie
advance of
going
movie.
going straight to streaming, or is it?
No, it's in theaters.
Oh,
It's a theater
okay.
movie.
That-
or the one that I
I can't
actually wanted
watch
to
it.
do. We could watch Meg 2. I really want to watch Meg 2. And so we could still watch
Did you
Meg
watch
1.
Meg 1?
No, and I don't want to. I'll just
See, I
watch it
did.
too.
Not
I think it'd be
good.
very fun.
And dude, you know what's crazy? Alex sent this tweet to me today, and apparently mags are based on books.
And there's a
How
lot of
crazy
them.
is that?
It can be like a nineology of films like Star Wars.
And the last mag book is called Mag Purgatory.
Oh,
Just
that's,
imagine.
that's awesome.
Just imagine.
It goes
my
hard.
goodness.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking for a long time, just like Thor: Love and Thunder, but this is a significantly shorter episode. If you like us, check us out on Instagram and Twitter at Predator v Movies. If you like my thoughts on movies, check me out on Letterboxd at _AlexGordon_. I leave reviews sometimes. Sometimes they're very delayed. It took me a week to do Oppenheimer and more than a week to do Barbie, but it will be coming soon in our timeline, not when this is posted.
Nice. So you could also follow me on Letterboxd. I'm 810sunny. That's 810SONNY. My name is Wombo. I also leave reviews sometimes, though they are often very short.
Peter, do you have any plugs?
Guess what, guys? No plugs for me. You know what
You
that
know
means?
what that means? Leave a review wherever you listen. Wherever you listen to the podcast, you gotta give us 5 stars, like it, add a comment,
Follow the
transfer
pod.
us. Yeah.
And actually, we did have a comment.
No
I have
way!
I have
That's
to
crazy.
remind myself, it's someone we know, so it's a little bit of cheating.
Okay.
But I will find it so I can call it out, because we said we would. I'm
Yeah.
a man of my word.
We
But
do
I do
have
have
to
to
follow.
remember. I have to remember which episode it was, and remembering is not my strong suit. Here we go. I found it. Jory says.
Oh yeah.
Says this is my go-to podcast to listen at work nowadays. Thanks, Jory. Does anyone want to guess which episode this was for? This is a fun nothing game. It's from this year. So I'll say.
This year.
I'm gonna say probably not Barbenheimer because that's too recent.
It's too recent. Yeah. I was thinking the same
Past
thing.
Lives.
Spider-Verse.
Both of you are incorrect. You have. I'll give you each
Mission
of you 3
Impossible.
guesses.
Mission
No.
Impossible. No.
Mission Impossible. What else even came out? this year?
Extraction 2.
Extraction
Yes,
2.
you're done, Peter. You have 2 more, Aiden.
What even came? Oh, Knock at the Cabin. I don't know.
Nope.
Do Guardians. Guess Guardians.
Oh,
Why would you tell him to guess one? That's your guess.
Guardians. I'll guess Guardians.
Wait, I thought I'm
Bo
out of
is
guess.
afraid. Bo is afraid.
Oh,
is the-
really?
Bro is
Oh.
Yeah,
afraid.
that's a good one.
Forgot the movie
Are you
happened.
British
God
now?
damn, that was so
Anyways.
long ago.
Anyway, so yeah, leave a review because we like that. Thanks, Jory.
Yeah, thank you, Jory.
And it helps us. It helps the algorithm. And tell your friends that you like this podcast. But yeah, until next week, I've been Alex,
I've been Peter.
And I am Aiden.
and this was Flash. God, and this is Predator versus Movies. See you next week. Beep, beep, beep.
Woo, pew, 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 wee, wee, wee.